Now we just tap out.
I don't have a burning desire to review the show. It was a fine show. Nothing overwhelming.
Oh, really? Claire Lynch?
Nothing, well, with one exception, with literally the exception of about 6 seconds. There's nothing bad with the show at all. Then there were 6 very bad seconds in the middle.
I forget what they were.
Claire Lynch.
Oh, they're talking about Brooke.
I can deal with Brooke.
All right, well, let's get going then.
There's a second.
Review away.
Show opened. Actually, the show started during the credits of whatever show goes on before Impact. It was Kenny King, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and Zema Ion, and they were all getting ready to come out before their match. And they're all in the entranceway, and they just start fighting. It actually makes sense, because in wrestling, you always see the guys come out the same door. You would think eventually a fight would start there. Lo and behold, here it was. So they brawl out onto the stage, and it's funny. You could tell the live crowd, they were waiting for like a
Pyro Ballyhoo.
or Ballyhoo or an entrance song or something. But these 4 men come out and start fighting on the ramp, including the world champion and his biggest rival, and nobody reacted at all. And they brawled, and then they came down to ringside, and the fans were like, oh, I guess the show is on. And then they started cheering and hitting their spots. So they actually had a ton of time. Just went through a commercial break and into the next segment. And it was a very good old school tag match. And eventually they got the heat on Kenny. Aries got the hot tag. He ran wild. He wiped out Roode with his tope. And then King pinned Ion with basically a fireman's carry into a rock bottom.
Killed the poor guy.
This looked like it sucked. They made a big deal of King pinning the X Division champ. And Roode and Aries kept shouting at each other. So this accomplished, this progressed 2 feuds and was an entertaining match. So it's a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Sting called. He did a pre-commercial break thing, saying he was going to call out someone. Then he came out after the commercial and called out James Storm. He wanted to know if
I thought he was going to call out Dave.
He did say he was going to get to the bottom of this Aces and Eights thing. So yes, perhaps he should have called
He
out
said,
Dave.
I know some of you out there have inside scoops, so I want to call somebody down to the ring. And I thought, Dave Meltzer? But it was James Storm.
Yeah. By the way, Sting's still wearing the Joker makeup. We are now, that is now 2 Batman movies ago. He needs to move on to a mask like Bane. Just get rid of the Joker makeup.
Well, he'll do that in 5 years.
I guess he will.
So it'll be completely non-topical.
Yeah. So he showed the videos of Storm not being attacked by the Aces and Eights.
How about if he dresses up like Catwoman?
No buys. That's distressing. Storm said the video showed cowards running away when he was coming down to kick their ass. Said he had fought Sting many times before and never needed anyone to fight his battles. Talked about Kurt Angle jumping him from behind, and he didn't whine or cry about it. He just turned around and beat Kurt's ass. So this brought Angle out. He basically repeated everything Sting had said, and then Sting left, and then Angle left, and there was no music or anything, and the fans were not sure it was over.
There was an argument on the board of all places. I know you're shocked. When I had made the comment that there is no evidence whatsoever, why does anybody believe that James Storm is a part of Aces and Eights? The only thing we've got is Bobby Roode claiming that he is. And this, of course, led to people saying, well, no, Brian, last week on the show, when he ran down to the ring, Aces and Eights ran away. This is their evidence. This is what they consider evidence. So all I have to say is if I'm ever wrongly accused, I don't want anyone from the board as a juror in my trial.
Well, why haven't they attacked him yet?
Well, Vinny, because they're trying to make everyone believe that he is involved, so everyone turns on him. But the point is, even if he is involved, there is no evidence whatsoever at this point. There is a logical explanation for
circumstantial evidence.
Everything that is poor circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, you should ask Todd. He's the lawyer. They show clips of AJ Styles on the promotional tour in Australia. This led to a best of Claire Lynch video montage. We then saw Daniels and Kazarian
Think about that, by the way.
Yeah. We saw Daniels and Kazarian in the locker room. Chris Daniels is wearing sunglasses inside, drinking an Appletini, and wearing a scarf with his t-shirt. Yep. This is the world's most amazing man. We had Bully Ray versus Robbie E in a Bound for Glory series match. Someone needs to be at the bottom of the standings when this is done, and it's going to be Robbie E.
Oh, come on.
He got squashed in a minute with a cutter. Earl approached Madison backstage. He had gifts for her, including chocolates and a teddy bear. Madison said she did not need gifts. She just needed his affection.
How sweet.
Aww. Then Gail walked up and shouted, "What is this? What's going on here?" And poor Earl, who had done his best to show his affection for his girl and was being chewed out, he hung his head and he loped away.
Earl has not said anything so far.
Good.
He just stands there looking stricken.
Yes. That makes it better. That really does make it better. I don't need 20-minute Earl promos on his love for Madison. Just give her a teddy bear. So Madison insisted that Earl was a pro and would never screw anyone. So that sucks for her, I guess. We had a four-way. Tara versus Madison versus Mickey versus Gail. You also had Christy Hemme doing ring intros and Tess Mocker on commentary. And all six of these women are in just superhuman shape.
It is amazing that all of a sudden, all of the girls have lost 10% body fat.
Quickly.
Maybe not that much.
Well, except for Madison, who has been doing bikini contests. The rest of them have improved quickly.
Yeah.
So, match was all right. Madison had a bad night, and a couple times you could tell she knew she was having a bad night. And there's one point where Mickey does her spot where she does a flapjack and then kips up from her back.
Yes.
And she went to pick Madison up. I don't know whose fault it was, but...
Well, it's Mickey's, because Madison took the bump perfectly, but Mickey did not take a bump.
She forgot to go down?
She forgot to go down for her own move, so
then
Madison face plants.
Yes. And it looked fine, and it just looked like Mickey picked her up and threw her down. Mickey then proceeded to take a phantom back bump and kip up anyway.
Yes. Had to get that spot in there after screwing up her own spot.
Yes. So Tara pinned Madison with a wacky roll-up, except Earl countered the three, but then declared Madison the winner, even though both of her shoulders remained down and only one of Tara's shoulders were down. So he's bending the rules to benefit his beloved.
I love that finish. That's now 2 weeks in a row they've done it.
Yes.
So, and they made sure that like Earl was actually not watching Madison's shoulders. So, you know, they're trying to play up like, is he blatantly screwing the baby faces, or is he just so blinded by love that he's incompetent? I like this storyline.
It is different. We had various dudes talk about coming out for the main event to make sure that there was no gang attack. Sting had a conversation with Brooke Hogan. He said he knew... Go ahead.
I'm just laughing at this. Go on.
He knew her dad had said he was okay, but he wanted to know the truth. How was he doing?
That's actually a good line, because as noted, last week they had a screenshot of Hogan's twit vid where he was in the hospital laughing and joking with Jimmy Hart totally fine.
Yeah.
And then later in the show, you had Brooke claim he's what was the word she used? Something overly dramatic. He's
bad.
He's completely incapacitated. I've never seen him like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I just watched a video that they put a screen cap on. He's fine. So they explained this week that in fact, he's claiming he's okay, but she's never actually seen him this bad.
Yeah. So she said she had never seen her dad unable to fight back before.
Really, fool?
Well, in her defense, I'm sure she doesn't have great memories of his 1980s feuds.
That's probably true.
But yes, I can name like a dozen guys who left your father unable to fight back before.
How about Brock Lesnar?
That's a good answer. That's a better answer. My first guess, and actually of all the people, I don't know why this is my first one, but Earthquake.
Sure.
But King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, the Big Boss Man, Paul Orndorff, your father's had some rough days. So, Sting wanted to make sure that she was capable of doing her job in this environment with masked men taking out her father and other people. At this point, a messenger came in with an envelope. It had the aces and eights inside, and Brooke couldn't handle it, and she took off because she was scared.
I've got to go.
Is that your Brooke impression?
It was tonight.
I like how every other woman in the world, you go up several octaves.
High voice, but hers is husky.
Hers is sultry almost.
I can't do it.
Speaking of sultry, Eric Young
of
and
all
ODB
the
in a
people
chat.
on Hogan Knows Best, she was the most sane of all. I don't really have a problem with, like, She's no good on this show, but I don't have a problem with Brooke. I apologize for my huskiness.
Speaking of sultry and husky, Eric Young and ODB had a chat. ODB said Brooke was upset because they had not defended their titles in 2 months and also that Eric was a man. That was how she said it, and that made me laugh. So Eric plugged his wacky fishing TV show. He said, if we're separate, they can't force us to defend the belts, and he took one belt and he ran away.
Yeah.
Hey, they're on TV.
This wasn't much of a plug for his show Sunday.
It really
When
wasn't.
this segment was over, I had no desire to see that show.
I don't think he mentioned the time or the channel. Just that he's got a show. Kid Cash versus Chavo Guerrero. Hector was on commentary and Chavo's grandma was in the crowd. They basically had a 4-minute SmackDown match on Impact.
There was like absolutely nothing special whatsoever about the in-ring here, but for whatever reason, these people went nuts for Chavo. So more power to him.
Yeah, it was fine. There was literally nothing wrong with it. But it was, like I say, we see 4-minute SmackDown matches like this every week on SmackDown. This week it was on Impact. Chavo won clean with the Three Amigos and the Frog Splash. They teased interference from Hernandez and Gunner, but nothing really came of it. It was fine. Crowd did like Chavo an awful lot. They talked to Dixie about Claire and AJ. Dixie said it was time for AJ to step up and set the record straight.
I thought he did. He claimed he was not responsible, and he didn't do anything. What more does she want? A paternity test? I suppose that's probably what she wants.
You did miss the episode where Claire had the photos.
And I was there. I saw that one.
You were? Okay. Yeah. AJ cannot deny these. And he has not denied these.
They're photographs. It's 2012. She's a heel.
Perhaps he is not...
This is not good evidence for me!
Perhaps AJ has not seen the Dave's Leather Jacket thread. Someone named Wes Briscoe showed up backstage. He talked to a bunch of guys like we were supposed to know who he was. They identified him in the next segment. Said he wanted to be a pro wrestler like his dad. He hoped Kurt could get him a job. Devon and Garrett arrived. They were concerned about the aces and eights. Kurt asked them to keep an eye out during his match, and they agreed. Then he asked Wes what he was doing later, and Wes said, I'm going to a strip club. And he was way more enthusiastic about this than I was. Way more enthusiastic about this than I've ever been. Way more enthusiastic, I think, than Ed's ever been. He was very happy about the strip clubs in Orlando.
I have never seen Wes Briscoe wrestle. But when you're the son of Jerry Briscoe and somehow you get cut from WWE,
yeah,
I think that takes a...
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We have the best segment of the show next. Chris Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. It determined that since the most important time of a woman's life was when she was pregnant, and since AJ was treating Claire like dirt, they took it upon themselves to throw her baby shower. They brought her into the ring. She stood right up. This may actually be a great moment now I think about this. She stood straight up. She literally threw the guardrail out of her way to separate it, and she's walking in the ring, and she suddenly remembers, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be pregnant. Puts her hand on her back. But that's funny, because this is going to end up with her, she's lying. So, she's
we presume, I'm hoping at the end she gives birth to a hand.
Oh, God. That she's a worked bad actress. So, she got in the ring, and they had a bunch of gifts for her. She sat down in a chair. The first gift was diapers, which every mother's going to need. The next gift was various TNA merchandise, action figures of their father, the baby's father, and Uncle Chris and Uncle Kaz. Then the best gift, they had a baby doll in very tiny AJ Styles ring gear, and Kaz held the doll up to the camera and had it do AJ's entrance, complete with vocal sound effects.
Yes,
this is the highlight of Frankie's career.
I always thought that Frankie Kazarian was fine. I was never overly impressed with him. I thought, looks good. He's fine in the ring. Nothing special. He never really was anything on interviews. Never really was anything much on vignettes and that sort of thing. But you shave that dude's head and you put him with Chris Daniels and magic.
Yes.
This is like the best Frankie Kazarian I've ever seen in my entire life. And as noted, Frankie Kazarian and Chris Daniels are my favorite tag team in the entire world. It's an incredible, incredible thing. Daniels, I've just concluded, I've said this before. I can't speak for Chris Daniels. I have never spoken to him about this, nor do I think that he would even admit it if I did. But Chris Daniels reminds me of those guys where you hit a certain age and you just don't give a fuck about wrestling anymore. But you're still making money from it, and you're still on national television. So at that point, because you no longer care, you suddenly become awesome. A great example is Dave Bautista. When Dave Bautista was ready to get the hell out of WWE, the last 6 months of his career, on his way out, he was by far the best he'd ever did because he didn't give a fuck. He just went out there and he had fun. And he was awesome. And that's how I see Chris Daniels right now. Maybe he's gravely passionate about his career still. I'm sure he's still got a fair amount of passion. I don't know. But strikes me as the guy who's just like, well, I'm just going to go out there and enjoy myself. And it's making for the best Chris Daniels I've ever seen. So more power to these two men.
There was a moment here where Daniels had the mic, and he explained that the next gift was the piece de resistance. And Kazarian pointed out these fans don't know what that means. And Daniels turned to the fans and said, that means, well, I forget what he said, the prize piece, stay in school.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. So they give all these gifts, and there's literally one fan screaming Hosky. And then
I thought that fan was screaming Husky. Like he'd gone back in time after hearing my Brooke Hogan impersonation.
Perhaps he had. And then Claire Lynch took it upon herself to be Claire Lynch.
Was it Hosky or was it Hussy?
I would bet it was Hosky.
I thought it was Hussy. Anyway.
So Claire looks into the mic, or into the camera, and she pleads with AJ to man up, and she's...
Do the right thing for the baby.
She's fake screaming through fake tears, do the right thing for our baby, AJ. And she finished, and Taz just about vomited.
He may have vomited. There was a strange noise coming out of Taz.
Tenay was talking, and the other microphone just picked up a guttural sound. Yes.
You know the problem with this?
No.
I'll tell you the problem with this. So, the assumption is that Claire Lynch is lying. And that, in fact, AJ did not impregnate her. Perhaps she's not even pregnant at all. So, in the end, you'll be able to justify all of this bad acting. The reason that she's so horrible in these skits is because she's lying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is, she still has to act like she's telling the truth later.
Ooh, that's a good point.
I'll bet she does bad. Unless she's like just a phenomenal actor and can just like believably act like she can't act, and then later she'll act like she can act, or just whatever. I just expect this whole thing to be a disaster.
It's one of the worst storylines of the year.
It's not even so much the storyline. I don't even have a problem so much with the storyline as I do with
the woman.
The woman.
Speaking of, by the way,
if they got like Karen Jarrett, if they got like a Karen Jarrett to play the Claire Lynch role, this would be like a phenomenal storyline.
No.
Because Karen Angle is awesome.
You don't remember Karen Angle very well, do you?
Oh, man.
She was a better actress.
By leaps and bounds.
She would just scream like a brouhaha at the mic, but...
Ironically.
The story still makes no sense. Later, by the way, Chris Daniels took to Twitter. He had this to say. I'm very disappointed with the lack of compassion shown by the Impact Zone fans toward Claire Lynch tonight. A shameful display, fans. Boo! Great man. Speaking of great men, Joseph Park Esquire appeared on television.
Yeah.
He said backstage that he was done wrestling, but his law firm, which of course is Park, had agreed to represent several TNA guys. He saw Sting across the way. He marked out. He ran over to him, said he didn't want to keyfab him, but he did offer his legal...
K-fab.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I heard keyfab.
He should have named his law firm Park Drive in Reverse.
I think you can say kayfabe and works.
Well, it's got a park in there somewhere.
I see. Actually, you're right. So Sting said he already had a lawyer, but he was very impressed by Joe's Black Hole Slam. Park was marking out and said, Sting, can I get a photo?
No, you missed a key part.
All right.
He said that Black Hole Slam was textbook. Don't kayfabe me.
He did say that.
But
Joe denied it.
Joe denied whatever.
He said, that's
Sting
my
had not
brother's
said.
move.
Yeah.
And he said, Sting, can I please get a photo? And Sting said, sure. And Joe took a cell phone photo, and Sting made a face, and Joe made a face, and I thought, please tell me that's on Twitter. It is! It made me so happy.
A fine usage of Twitter here.
So, yes. Then we had the main event, Kurt Angle versus James Storm. They showed Wes Briscoe at ringside, like a half hour after he actually appeared on for the first time. So he was Jerry's kid, a great amateur wrestler, and a champion wakeboarder. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's impressive. It sounds funny. So they're having this match, and one by one, guys like Sting and Devon and Bully Ray and Robert Roode showed up. Match was fine. Nothing special. The highlight was when Kurt Angle attempted a super kick, and he basically just threw his foot out
That
in
was
front
the
of him.
goddamn worst super kick I've ever seen.
In hindsight, it really was. Well, we weren't sure at the time it was a super kick, but the next spot was Storm hitting the Angle Slam.
Dropping the dude right on the back of his head.
Yeah, it was a bad Angle Slam, too. So, yeah, don't do other guys' moves, everyone. They're hard. So, eventually, Kurt got the ankle lock for a long time, and Storm tease-tapping, but he kicked his way free and then immediately hit the super kick for the clean pin.
This finish was so goofy. He's in this ankle lock for like at least a minute. And he can't get out, and he gets pulled to the center, and he almost gets pulled to the center, he can't get out. And then he rolls and does one kick, which Angle stumbles backwards. And then Storm just stands up and super kicks him and pins him. It's like, what? I don't know if they were short on time, long on time, what the deal was, but this finish came off very odd on television.
Yeah. So everyone, literally everyone, both guys in the ring, all the guys at ringside, all the fans.
More great evidence coming up.
They waited. Well, okay, here I agree with you. they all were waiting for the other shoe to drop. And there was no gang attack. So Storm grabbed a mic and said, come on, aces and eights, we're ready, get down here. And they still didn't show up. So
his conclusion was...
Rude grabbed a mic. And Rude's conclusion was, in fact, that their absence proved Storm was behind all this.
Yeah.
I agree, that is stupid.
Not that there were 8 million men out there surrounding the ring in case these guys showed up. No.
Yes.
This was proof that it must be James Storm. So anyway.
So Rude and Storm got into it, and they're having a match next week in the Bound for Glory series, and Aries and Rude started a brawl. Did I say Ray and Rude? Ray and Storm got into it, and then Rude and Aries. And the show ended, so yeah. It's the best wrestling show on TV. This is not their best show.
All right, before we go, I got a song.
Do you now?
I do. Let's play this. It's from Vance. Not Vance, Nevada, of the World of Hurt. By the way, Todd has seen 5 episodes, I believe he said. And he said, I believe number 3 is the best.
Well, good.
The guy that said that he should be the future legend. I forget his name.
Guy.
Malibu
Stacy.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, he's apparently his show is outrageously great. So that'll be next week. All right, let's play this song.
Dear Don, there's been a rumor that you stole the mustache from Freddie Mercury. Is this true?
Ken, I respect you because you ignored a rumor and you came directly to me. Now, I heard the rumor that you lost your virginity to Freddie Mercury, and I defended you. I said no. Ken Shamrock lost his virginity to a man long before he started dating Freddie Mercury.
Well, I'll tell you, the Russians don't like being told what to do, especially by some pansy, you know. The goddamn Russians are last men on the planet, you know. Everybody in the U.S. been feminized so bad, we ought to be carrying a purse and high heels, you know.
Mr. Urge.
Mr. Blonde. Mr. Fry.
Mr. Urge.
Mr. Blonde. Mr. Fry.
Don,
Hairy and strong.
Don, let me ask you.
Who cares if she cries and throws things at you? Look,
got the milk, why buy the cow? Get married, the woman gets mean, she gains weight, and there's no sex. All right? Happened to me. So don't do it. Run.
Don, let me ask you.
Hairy and strong. Run.
Don, let me ask you.
Well, for one, you're eating sun chips, so there's something wrong with you. 2, who cares? He's eating your sun chips. 10 years from now, it's not going to matter. You'll be successful. He'll still be on the street corner begging for sun chips. He's a loser.
He's ugly. Look at him.
Yeah, sponsored by Rogaine and Viagra. Hairy and strong. Hairy and hard, baby.
Hear your name. Mr. Brown. Mr. White. Mr. Urge.
Mr. Blonde, Mr. Fry.
Hairy and strong. You retire after every match. Hell, I've retired so many times. The only person retired more than me is Terry Funk. Hairy and hard. A little cold here. My lucky charms are freezing. Maybe you forgot about me.
No, Don, we can never forget about you.
Well, it takes me about an hour to shave it off every morning. You got Sean Connery, you know.
Yeah.
He's a top. You got Tom Selleck, Burt Reynolds, Sam Elliott. Nancy Grace has got a hell of one there, too. Saw some gal so beautiful, man, I'll tell you. I'd drag my pecker in a mile of shattered glass just to stand in the shadow.
Well, now, we're glad.
Last guy who banged her, man.
Don, we can never forget about you.
It's the Ballad of Don Fry.
That's tremendous. I shave it off, and it takes me an hour to shave my mustache off every morning.
Yep.
That is amazing.
Hairy and strong.
Poetry.
Ballad of Don Fry. Thanks very much, Vance.
To shave it off every morning.
All right, everybody. We're going to wrap it up for today. To the back! Henry called it Granny's heel turn. Let's do Impact.
Impact had one really great match, and otherwise it was a show. Bully Ray came out, talked about all the evidence against James Storm, and said this all proved he must be guilty. He must be the man behind the aces and eights. Said he would beat Storm tonight and then win his match at the pay-per-view. Storm came out, said it wasn't him, dared Ray to fight. Ray backed down, and then the gang appeared on the screen. They cut a promo with heavy voice distortion. Frankly, it was too heavy. I had to work to understand these men. But the gist of this was they vowed it to be there tonight. And Ray started screaming at Storm, and suddenly they cut to a Burger King commercial.
Yeah. Very abrupt.
Yeah. So after the break...
This was actually Ace and Eights were a ripoff of the Bane character before they cleaned him up. Apparently they did some screenings many months ago.
I don't know
and
if it
people
was the
had
trailer or the
absolutely
screeners.
no idea what this man was saying.
Yes. So, after the break, Pope said that he may be in second to last place, but damn it, he was going to win this tournament. Then he did not appear again on the show. He fell further behind in the next 2 hours. We had RVD versus Magnus in a Bound for Glory series match. The only thing worth discussing here really was neither of these men, but in fact, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson was out there doing commentary, and he appeared to have been given no notice that he would be doing commentary. He lost his train of thought
immediately.
Literally his first sentence.
Yes.
He said like 6 words, and he stopped, and they cut to him, and he wasn't saying anything, and he was just sitting there. Then he held his hands up, indicating, I don't know what's going on. About 5 more seconds passed, and then he made up something. They talked more. He claimed that he had been watching tapes, which is funny of itself. But watching tapes and learning submissions, Taz laughed out loud at this. Eventually, Rob pinned Magnus with a frog splash.
I love when Mr. Anderson was talking about how RVD was difficult to move. For so many reasons. What irony.
If it changes
the man
anything,
is difficult to move. Join the club of every opponent you've ever had.
Was he talking about Rob or Magnus? I guess
I believe he was talking about Rob. Because Taz was like, sure is.
That's true. He would know that better than knowing Magnus. Rude said he had a contract signing with Aries tonight, but it wasn't going to go down because there was language in the contract he didn't like. He threatened to pull out of the match and leave the show without a main event.
I was astonished by this this wackiness here. So you're the challenger for the championship, and you're threatening to pull out of your championship match? Oh, no.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit more later.
It was the poor grasp of who has the leverage in this situation. Daniels and Kazarian defended their titles against Devon and Garrett. Had a very basic tag match. Devon got pinned after a belt shot. Garrett's offense doesn't look good, but he was in the right spot for everything and didn't fuck anything up. So that's positive.
Yeah.
Had a little promo. The Bound for Glory series guys, they're doing a bunch of four-ways of the pay-per-view, so we got a quick promo with all of them saying something about how hardcore they were. Robbie E. was in the ring.
This is great.
Wanted to let us all know he had 5 points, bro.
Yes.
He's in last place, but goddamn, he has 5 points. He vowed to win his tables match on Sunday. He would win by putting Jeff Hardy through a table. Then he showed himself getting his 5 points by beating Jeff Hardy via countout. This is the match where Jeff brawled with Rob Terry up the ramp, and Robbie E. won, and then proceeded to throw the greatest celebration of all time, doing a series of jumping split-legged toe touches.
Yes. This man is badly underutilized.
Yes.
The problem is it's pro wrestling, and he's a clown.
Yes.
So there's only so much that you can do with a clown. You can't really push him all that hard. But
they can use his clowniness better.
He should be clowning around every week on the program.
Yes. And on that note, he explained that he had 5 reasons Jeff would never be on his level. And I wanted to hear what his 5 reasons were.
I was very sad when he got through 1.
He only got 1, which was
beginning number 2, and he was cut off.
His one reason was that cool sweaters are better than lame wife beaters.
I like the idea that Jeff Hardy came out to interrupt the 5 reasons because apparently he was so upset about reason 1, the wife beaters and the sweaters.
Or he was worried that people might see Robbie E.'s point.
Indeed.
I better get out there before he points out how lame I am some more.
Yeah.
So he attacked, but there was 2 bad guys, and he got overwhelmed, and Rob Terry powerbombed him through a table, and then Robbie E. celebrated like he had done something. That was fun. They interviewed AJ about the pictures with Claire. His first comment was, you had to be pretty bad at sex for somebody to not remember having sex with you.
So he said.
Probably a good point. He said he did not drink alcohol, so there was no reason for him to have blacked out. He left to prepare for his match with Kurt Angle. Tenay and Taz were running down the show when Samoa Joe hit the desk. He screamed, this may have been a shoot, actually. He screamed that they had not given him any TV time, so he was going to take it. And he vowed to beat Angle and AJ and Chris Daniels in their match on Sunday. We had AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. These are, in my opinion, the 2 best workers in the company, so guess what? They had a very good match.
They had maybe the best match on Impact all year.
On Impact, yeah, probably.
This match was awesome.
This was an excellent, outstanding match. He kicked out of, kicked out of the big moves. AJ kicked out of an Angle slam. Angle kicked out of a Angle kicked out of a Styles clash. AJ, son of a bitch.
Would you like to start over again, Vinny?
I think I would. AJ Styles hit a Styles clash, but Kurt Angle kicked out. Then Angle hit a superplex and Angle kicked out. He missed a moonsault, had a few more big moves, and then finally Angle got the Angle slam for the clean win.
Perhaps we need to replace your battery.
Or restart me.
Do you have a reset button?
Maybe I do.
Or I could push the button hard enough and your day just starts over?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I did have an idea a long time ago. I have been in the car with many people who get very upset with other drivers, and they'll be like, if I only had a gun. And I always thought, that's not very nice, shooting somebody and all. But I thought, what I'd like to invent is, I don't want to call it a weapon.
A tool.
It's a helpful device, a tool, where when you are ironically behind said tool, and he's going too slow, or he's weaving in and out of traffic, or my favorite, when you follow the old person who's driving 10 miles underneath the speed limit until they get to the stop sign, at which point they run the stop sign, you would apply this tool, which for all I know may be in the form of a ray gun, and that person would instantly have to start their day all over again. That's my idea.
A Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
Bomb.
But the key to this is they would wake up knowing exactly what happened. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like nothing that they accomplished during the day, which quite frankly, these drivers have likely accomplished absolutely nothing during the day, hence their speed. But they would know that if they had accomplished anything, now they'd have to try to do it again because it was all erased. It was like they woke up from a dream, but they would have the understanding that, in fact, that wasn't a dream. You lived that day, but you fucked up so bad that someone hit you with the groundhog ray, and you just start your day all over again. That is my dream invention.
The only flaw in this plan is that what if you have a really great day and then you drive like an idiot on purpose so someone can restart it for you?
Too bad. You shouldn't have drove like an idiot.
No, but no, they benefit from driving like an idiot. They get to go through their excellent day again.
No. It doesn't work like that. You're not necessarily going to live the exact same day over again. It's the butterfly effect. You may wake up 1 minute later, and thus your entire day is completely screwed up from that point forward.
So you were going with the Groundhog Day weapon mixed in with the chaos theory.
Yes. It's exactly what I'm doing. Someday I'll invent this weapon. This tool. Sorry.
There was a tweet, I think it was Truth Martini. Somebody in wrestling made this tweet. It was, did you ever notice that anyone who drives slower than you is an idiot, and anyone who drives faster than you is a maniac?
Yes, that is a fact.
No, that's not how I feel. People who drive slower than me are idiots. People who drive faster than me are heroes. And I try to get out of their way.
I see.
I will not impede traffic. If someone's driving faster than me and I have to go out of my way to slow down and pull over, I will do so. I endorse speeding.
I think when you're on World of Hurt Season 3, your gimmick should be Lies Martini. And you grow your hair long, and you have a book of lies, and you have a top hat, and everybody whispers that you're a Truth Martini ripoff, and you claim you've never heard of the guy. What do you think of this idea?
I was wondering where you're going with that.
And you're always eating.
That's just because I'm fat.
Yeah, exactly. It's comedy, Vinny. It's always funny. I don't win the $25?
I don't think so, Tim.
Tim? What are you talking about? He's the only guy that's ever called you fat?
I remember earlier when I made fun of people for making obscure references?
Yes.
That was an obscure reference to Home Improvement.
I see. I presumed it was a Tim Flowers reference.
Yeah. No, that's
who I'm sure pointed out many times that you were, in fact, fat.
Actually, no, because when I was wrestling for him, I was much less fat.
That is true.
He hated my hair.
That's right.
He picked me for my hair.
And boy, did you sure show him.
Did I?
That hair match. Taught him a lesson.
Hate wrestling. Where the fuck were we? Kurt won. And then afterwards, Claire had been cheering for AJ the entire time and being very happy. And she tried to cheer for him as he walked up the ramp, and he gave her the cold shoulder, and she was confused and hurt.
It has been discovered that Claire was a local actress who I guess had done a cooking show. Is that correct?
She had done a cooking infomercial.
A cooking infomercial.
I made it 45 seconds into this thing.
I tried many times to find out who Claire Lynch was, and I was never given this information. And now it has been discovered. And somebody claimed that she'd attempted to, I don't know how they described it, basically, tried to remove or take down websites and that sort of thing. So trying to keep herself a secret. I don't know why. Maybe concerned that this will have an effect on future gigs, which quite frankly it probably will. But yeah, she was happy here this time.
Until AJ gave her the cold shoulder.
She was much better at happily cheering AJ Styles than being mean or sad.
Or screaming.
Shrieking, I prefer.
Good work. That's true. We got another garbled Aces and Eights promo implying that their next target was close. Anderson immediately went to confront James Storm. And he basically said, if you're in charge of these attacks, and They hit me next. I'm going to come back and get you. Aries was on the phone with his lawyer discussing the contract details. He vowed to handle things with rude like men. Gail Kim versus Miss Tessmacher. I love the start to this match. If you don't watch Impact, I was going to say if you fast forward through Miss Tessmacher's entrance, but I can't imagine why anyone would do such a thing. But there's a spot in her entrance where she climbs up on the apron with her back to the ring, and then she takes a step forward and to the side and turns around. So she does this in her entrance in every match, and she gets in the apron here, her back's to the ring, and Gail charges to attack, and she times this perfectly, so as she's about to hit her is the moment when Brooke turns around as part of her entrance anyway, and Gail goes flying through the ropes and splats on the floor.
Yes.
This was comedy.
Yes.
Afterwards, they had a match. It was fine. It fit right in with everything else in the show. Brooke eventually won clean with her facebuster. And Madison Rayne came out. They had a stare down briefly, and then Madison turned and planted a big wet kiss on Earl Hebner. So he's going to be the ref in their match apparently, and everyone thinks he's going to screw Tessmacher so that he can screw Madison later. Joe Park Esquire appeared on screen.
Doesn't sound like the worst thing.
There's worse benefits to wrestling. Joe Park Esquire appeared on screen. Always a great moment. He talked about the contract signing between Rude and Aries, how he knew this kind of thing was going to come up. He suggested things might get intense later. He compared it to one of his greatest legal victories in the case of Alvarez versus McGillicuddy.
That's what we said.
I was hoping at first, I was thinking of Alvarez versus McNailer. A reference to your one match in Derby City.
Indeed.
Sadly, it was just you versus some other person.
Yeah.
Beulah, perhaps.
Kurt Hennig's son.
I like Tommy Dreamer's wife.
Or Tommy Dreamer's wife.
Yes. Anyway, and he went off to find another client.
I don't watch this show live. So, at about 6:20 or something like that, all of a sudden I started getting a bunch of texts and tweets, and all they said was Alvarez versus McGillicuddy. And I was completely baffled. Like, is he mad at me? Did I write something about Kurt Hennig? Is there a new character in NXT with the last name Alvarez? Why is everyone tweeting me Alvarez versus McGillicuddy? And as it turns out, he was referencing the case from 2003, which I am not at liberty to discuss.
It's all Joe Park's fault.
For legal reasons. But Joe saved me a lot of money.
Kenny King did a sit-down...
Which, by the way, speaking of Joe Park...
Promo?
Joe Park, originally his law firm was Park & Associates. But now it's Park, and Park. So I think somebody has become a big TV star, and they've attempted to capitalize on that.
Or perhaps the rest of his family has chosen to capitalize on his fortune.
Could be.
Perhaps the Park & Associates was not Joe Park. Perhaps he was one of the associates, and then the other Park found out and said, well, we got to promote this man. Make him a partner.
Interesting.
And some other Park. Kenny King did a sit-down promo he called going to TNA the biggest risk of his career. Indeed.
True.
Sting came out. He invited the Aces and Eights to attack. They did not. So he called out Rude and Aries for the contract signing. Rude explained that the clause in the contract he did not like was the one that said if he lost on Sunday, he would not get another title shot as long as Aries was champion.
Yes.
He said, if you do not change this clause, I am going to back out of the match and you will have no main event.
Now stop, everyone. Basically, this man was so angry that if he lost Sunday, he would not get another title shot, that his plan was to give up the one title shot that he was guaranteed. Am I missing something?
Which then, you're suggesting he would then be left with 0 title shots?
Yeah. So he was guaranteed one, and he was upset that if he lost, he wouldn't get another one. And so his protest involved not taking the one he was guaranteed. And then Austin Aries was like, fine, I'll make you a deal. I didn't quite get this.
Aries proposed a verbal agreement in front of Sting and the whole world that basically whoever loses the match on Sunday will not get a championship rematch as long as the winner is champion. So it's winner take all, no rematches. And Sting shook hands with Rude. Rude shook hands with Aries. Rude and Aries stared down. They teased a fight. They did not get the heat they were looking for, so Sting literally turned around to lead the crowd in cheers. And finally they shook hands, and then Rude threw water in Aries' face and ran away, and that was that.
Everybody played their roles really well, and at least on this show, they did remind us that was the main event, and they tried to put some heat behind it. But I don't think the stipulation added really anything to the match, and if anything, it made the babyface look kind of dumb, and it had me scratching my head as to what the problem was with the heel. Why, I don't know. The whole thing was it was weird psychology, you know?
If I'm going to be honest, the build for this pay-per-view has been pretty horrible.
It has been. I mentioned this on the Todd show today, but there are 3 4-ways at the pay-per-view, which I made this offer to Todd. I'll make the offer to you. I'll bet you can't name the guys in all 3 of these 4 ways.
Hell no.
Of course.
The only one I could do is Joe, Angle, AJ, and Daniels, and I can only do that one because Joe mentioned it specifically in his promo on the show.
That's pretty good, Vinny. I couldn't have done that. But my point is, I'm not a sports fan. I don't care about sports. Most sports. I think the majority of them are dumb. And I hate math. And I hate stats. Stats, to me, as a sports fan, consist entirely of whether or not a guy has lost a bunch of matches in UFC, does he deserve a title shot? If a guy's lost 5 matches, the answer is no. If he's won 5 matches, the answer is yes. If he's won 3 and lost 2, I'll debate it based on business. So I'm a bad sports fan. But the point is, I understand that sports fans like numbers and stats, and they like to look at things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, given that, while I'm not a sports fan, I can understand many people are. If you're doing these 3 4-ways, the 4 men in each of the 4 ways, those are the 12 men in the Bound for Glory tournament.
Right.
And the winner is getting 20 points. Now, you could have spent the last several weeks explaining via stats why it is very important for certain people to win this match, why it might be devastating for other people to lose the match, why people should try to prevent such and such from winning the match, because if he wins at 20 points, he's so far behind, this being Robbie E., that it's just a useless, the 20 points is just wasted if this guy wins the match. You know, it's like James Storm and I think Bully Ray are neck and neck. So it's pretty important if one guy wins and the other guy loses, that guy may be so far ahead that most everyone else can't possibly catch up.
Right.
That's something to discuss.
Yes.
Or in the case of Robbie, as I noted, he's got 5 points. Okay? If he wins 20 points, he's still so far down that it's going to be impossible for him to win. So the rest of the guys on his team should attempt to prevent this guy from all costs winning, because it's just a waste of 20 points. Everybody needs these points. Some people need them more than others. For some people, it's do or die whether they get the 20 points. For some people, you don't get the 20 points, but you're still pretty damn far ahead. You could have at least talked about this a little bit, but instead they just are like, here are the 4 ways. Winner gets 20 points. By the way, here are the brackets. So that's what I feel they could have done to make this feel like a more important pay-per-view. Right now, it just feels like this is the old B show in between A shows. You know, you can skip this show because next Thursday, you're going to find out who got the points. You're going to find out the new standings. And, maybe you care about the main event. But listen, if you don't care about Bobby Roode and Austin Aries, no one's buying this show. That, unfortunately, is a fact.
Yeah.
And to me, this promo here, I thought, like I said, everybody played their role well, but the storyline was somewhat baffling to me, and it didn't make me any more interested in seeing these 2 guys have a match. I'm excited, if only for the fact that, me personally, the matches are probably going to be really good. The main event's going to be good. The four-ways are all probably going to be good, particularly the one with Joe, Angle, and, what did you say, Daniels and Kazarian?
Daniels and AJ.
Daniels and AJ. That's probably going to be an awesome match, okay? But if you're not buying the show for the work rate, and that's like 99% of wrestling fans, no one's buying this show.
So we had the main event, James Storm versus Bully Ray. He had a good match, but they could not follow AJ and Kurt. Storm was doing some big-time cheerleading at the finish, and then he fucked up and lost.
I can only presume, I have not been told this by anybody, but I would presume this means that Bully has re-signed. It's either that, or when the show went off the air, Aces and Eights threatened to get Bully at the pay-per-view, at which point, I guess if he hasn't re-signed, I guess they kill him, and that's the end of him in TNA. But still, that was an odd finish. I guess they needed Storm to not get more points here. So I guess it's possible he didn't re-sign, but as soon as he won this match, I presumed he had. But then when they threatened him at the pay-per-view, I presumed, well, maybe he hasn't, because that will be the end of him on Sunday.
So, if you're not paying attention, the Aces and Eights appeared on screen, and they threatened Bully Ray for Sunday, and that was the end of the show.
Yeah.
That was Impact.
Not a bad show.
Better than Raw.
If you're judging it as a go-home show for a pay-per-view, it was rather ineffective. If you're judging it as a pro wrestling show, was the show good, bad, horrible? It was fine. And the Kurt Angle AJ Styles match was worth finding a replay, because that goddamn match was awesome. So we'll see what happens Sunday. That's it for today. To the back. Let's talk about the TNA show. What did you think of this show?
When I sat down, you said you had heard it was a good show. And then when it finished, I thought, well, that was a thumbs in the middle show. It was mostly uneventful, one good match. Then by the time I got home, I thought, nah, thumbs down. This is not worth all the time that it cost me. I wished instead I had not watched it. So we had basically a whole lot of matches that were in the 2-star range, give or take a little bit. A really good 3-way or 4-way with Angle and company, and a main event that I guess some people really liked. I thought it was just way too convoluted and stupid. And that was it. We can go match by match. Actually, the best part of this entire show, without a question, the pregame show had a video with everyone talking about last year's Bound for Glory series and how much it sucked. And that's almost exactly the words they used.
Yes. AJ could not figure out what the hell was going on last year.
No idea what was going on. No idea who was fighting, how many matches he had. This year is better, he said.
Sure is.
Everyone had similar thoughts. Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez beat Kid Cash and Gunner. Generally fine. Kid Cash and Chavo were on totally different pages here. Just fucking up really basic moves repeatedly. Hernandez hit his Undertaker dive on the Gunner. Chavo pinned Cash with a frog splash. Crowd was totally hot for this. And actually, for that matter, I will say, we have seen pay-per-views where the Impact Zone crowd gets burned out. They really didn't on this show. Crowd was into it pretty much throughout.
Someone did note, by the way, Dave was talking about Hernandez. Now he needs to retire the dive.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, he did the dive fine a couple of months ago, and he's even lighter now, so I don't know why. And someone pointed out that the dive was actually a spot where in the middle of the dive, Chavo had to tag him in midair.
Yeah.
So he may have deliberately done a low dive to make the tag spot work, and he actually is fine continuing to do the dive for the time being.
Wait, what? Your last sentence there lost me.
Dave's theory is that he's getting too old and heavy to do the dive.
Oh, I see.
But someone pointed out that, in fact, because Chavo had to make the tag, he couldn't have run and did the highest dive possible because Chavo might not have been able to reach him.
Okay, so Dave was worried that he barely cleared the ropes here and made it. I see.
And someone pointed out that, in fact, he could probably still clear the ropes just fine, and maybe better because he's lost weight. But in this particular instance, he couldn't go that high.
I would argue that he needed, I don't know if retired the dive is the right word, but just...
He should only do it on large groups of people.
And in important matches so it's memorable.
Well, this was supposedly an important match.
It wasn't. No one... Come on The first four-way was scheduled to come up next, but it never started, as a four-way at least. Pope's music played. He didn't come out. They cut backstage where the Aces and Eights were beating him up, slamming his arm in her door. His selling was actually awesome here. He was screaming and nearly weeping as they broke his arm, and then they stomped on his glasses. Bastards. And Rob Van Dam was so concerned about all this that he asked the ref to raise his hand and name him the winner. So Pope was out, so they had a three-way of RVD, Anderson, and Magnus. This is a Falls Count Anywhere match for 20 points. As I'm sitting here Tuesday night, I have zero memory of anything that happened. I remember Rob won. That's right. He's the Van Daminator on the stage to pin.
Out of nowhere, I felt.
Kind of. I don't know if Rob's ever won with a Van Daminator before. I've been watching hit that move since 97. My notes read, a fine match with an ending that came out of nowhere. 2 1/4 stars. Madison did a promo saying she would win. We had Kazarian versus Devon, a match that, if it was built on Impact, I missed it. Devon hit with a bunch of beverages. Kazarian slipped on the stairs and nearly died. Match was kind of boring. The announcers were entertaining themselves by discussing what the tag team champions catchphrase was and what it meant. Taz talked about the Crush Girls for a while. And spot got blown. They stared at each other for a minute. And Kazarian tried his pile driver, and Devon rolled through, hit a spine buster for the win. 2 1/4 stars. We had a great video for the Earl Hebner Madison Rayne romance.
Yes. It was awesome.
With swank 70s porno funk and Earl doing his Bret Hart shtick on house shows. This was awesome. Tessmacher versus Madison. Madison is a bikini contest winner, and the photo they showed of her during these graphics was awful. Cannot believe how bad that was. They need a new photo of her right now. So, Tessmacher hits the top rope elbow that is in fact still better than CM Punk's. She makes a cover. Madison gets her foot on the ropes to break it up cleanly and within the rules. Earl stops his count. Brooke starts protesting and whining. They showed a replay. Apparently, we were supposed to think that Brooke didn't see the foot on the ropes. So then Madison rolls her up and grabs the ropes for the pin and wins. So really, Earl Hebner didn't do anything that a million other incompetent pro wrestling refs have not done throughout the years, and Brooke comes off looking like an idiot.
Yeah, Brooke, you just didn't have to look. But she did.
Yeah.
Couldn't help it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was not good, and even if it had been good, it still would have been stupid. Borash goes to interview Bully Ray. Bully Ray refused to move. He had his back against the wall, so the Aces and Eights could not jump him. So they had taken out Pope tonight, and they had already named him, so he was watching his back. And then suddenly he went into total babyface mode, daring them to attack, saying he would not be hard, he'd be the guy in the ring whipping ass. He vowed to win the match tonight and then win the title at Bound for Glory. That was weird.
Yeah.
So we had the 4-way tables match. Bully Ray, Robbie E., Jeff Hardy, James Storm. The first spot they did with the table was they do the spot where someone's about to go through the table and someone else moves the table. A spot I've always hated because it always looks like someone's just on the verge of getting killed. And the very first time they tried it here, Robbie didn't move the table in time. Bubba kind of went through it, and then perhaps he was a pro and working, but he was crying something about his elbow here and then at the end of the match. So everyone stared at each other for a while.
As far as I know, he's fine, by the way.
You know, that's good. But still, I hate that spot. So then everyone kind of stood at each other as the match over. Do we keep going? They just kept going. And they repeated this exact same the exact same concept like 3 or 4 times. Somebody would try and move through a table. Somebody else would move the table instead of break it and move. They tried this over and over and over again. I just thought, there's 4 of you putting this together, and none of you had any other ideas for spots. So eventually, what the hell happened here? The Aces and Eights came out and laid out. There's a lot of bullshit going on.
Give us the quick and dirty.
I can't. I don't remember what happened.
Bully Ray pinned Jeff Hardy with a powerbomb through a table.
And won, yes. The Aces and Eights came out and attacked everyone but Storm. That was the key.
Yeah.
So, yes, Ray powerbombed.
And they gave him the thumbs up.
And they gave him a thumbs up. And they said this proved what everyone's saying about Storm, and Bubba Ray won.
And by the way, they are fooling the fans. The fans are starting to believe that James Storm is part of this group.
They may as well just turn him at this point.
Totally tell by the... I was actually thinking about that. Would it be the worst thing in the world if he broke a beer bottle over Bobby Roode's head at Bound for Glory and they did a double turn? I don't know.
The answer is no. We've seen many, 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 many things in this company over the years worse than that.
Yeah.
Borash interviewed Aries, tried to ask him a question from Twitter. Aries blew it off, cut his own promo, said he would win. Kenny King wrestled Zema Ion. They had a Ring of Honor match in TNA. Lots of chain wrestling encounters. It was totally different and refreshing from everything else in the show.
I still didn't think it was as good as their TV match.
It may not have been. Yeah, I gave this 2.5 stars, which I believe was my highest rating at this point. So yeah, this show is not blowing me away. King hit a blockbuster at one point. It occurred to me, the blockbuster move where you fly through the air and grab your opponent's head, named for that noted high flyer Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
That made me laugh when I realized
He's kind
that.
of a high flyer when he was younger.
For a very short time. And if you go back and watch those, the early Marcus Alexander Bagwell matches, he was already huge.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway. Eventually, they teased up with a hairspray, but it never actually got used. And then Kenny tried a sunset flip out of the corner. He got a bunch of near falls, tried a sunset flip out of the corner, and Ion turned it into a gory bomb for the win. Best match in the show, which is quite a backhanded compliment, is what I said.
Kenny King is signed, by the way, everybody.
Good.
So, the biggest risk of his career, he got signed.
Yeah. Samoa Joe cut a promo trying to sound tough about the ladder match and the aces and eights and all the guys he's going to beat up. And all I could think was, you are on television here with a gelled mohawk. I can't take anything you say seriously. This haircut sucks. So we had Joe and Kurt Angle and Chris Daniels and AJ Styles in a ladder match for 20 points.
Great match.
This was the best match on the show.
I'd go farther and call it the great match on the last few shows. It was great.
Give me a star rating. What do you think?
I'd give it a 4.25.
I went 3.5.
Really?
It was good.
My God, Vinny, what's happened to you?
I guess I have higher standards than you. So, yeah, I mean, there's... the
finish alone should have taken it from 3.5 to 4.25.
The finish was an 18-star finish. That is true. I did right here for... I'm looking through my notes trying to figure out what I might not have liked about it. They were all brawling on the floor.
I'd like to know.
Daniel started throwing guys in the ring. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. They got a completely unwarranted "This is awesome" chant. Perhaps that's why. Perhaps when the fans started chanting that and I disagreed.
It's not their fault.
I knocked them for the fans' blown spot. Anyway, let's talk about the finish because that was the most important thing. So, AJ takes a scary bump out of the ring and nearly dies. It was down to 3 guys. The 2 remaining babyfaces then have a suplex contest to see who can hurt Chris Daniels more. They take turns giving him every scary suplex in the world and brutalize him. And they bring a couple ladders in the ring. Daniels makes a bit of a comeback, but he ends up just hung up in the ladder and they take turns kicking him. So Daniels is incapacitated, hanging in the ladder, dead, where he remained until the end of the match. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. So then Joe and Kurt climb the ladders. They are both within fingertips reach of the contract of the clipboard or whatever the hell it was he had to grab. They're trading punches up there, and they're brawling and fighting their hearts out. And finally, Joe hits a big shot, and Kurt takes the big bump, plummeting to the floor. And victory for Joe looks ensured. And suddenly, out of nowhere, AJ Styles comes flying in with a springboard from the apron. He lands on the ladder. In one motion, he grabs the clipboard and falls to the mat, the winner.
Awesome.
That was the best finish to a ladder match I've seen in a long time.
Fantastic.
The finish of this, like I say, 1,000,000 stars. So, and then they all just left. Daniels was still hanging helplessly in the ladder. That section of the match I just described, actually, I will say this. That was well into the 4-star range.
Yes.
Much higher. It was the early part of the match that was not as fun. So, the upside of this is AJ got 20 points. He moved from 11th to 7th. And Tanay pointed out that he also wrestled fewer matches than everyone else because he'd been in Australia for a while. I should point out, as long as we're being that detailed, that in the earlier matches, Rob got 20 points. That moved him into 2nd place. And Bully Ray got 20 points. That moved into a tie for 4th, and that is critical because the top 4 guys move on.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Then we had the main event. It was Bobby Roode versus Austin Aries. Aries ran wild for a while. Roode bailed outside. Actually, it was when Aries crashed into the guardrail for the heat. A female fan was so unsympathetic, she told him to get in the ring and called him a motherfucker.
Yes.
What a bitch. So, Roode beat him up for a while. Aries made his comeback. There was less heat for this than you expect. Maybe if the last month of television had not made this the 3rd or 4th most important thing on the show, people would have cared. But in that time, the most important program has been the Aces and Eights. The number 2 program has been Claire Lynch. And the number 3 program has probably been the tournament as a whole. And this has just been shunted way, way, way down the list of things to care about. So, then they start doing referee bumps and run-ins and visual pins. It was like the old school Jeff Jarrett matches where 9 million things are going on.
All I will say, maybe I'll be wrong, but it was a very convoluted finish.
Yeah.
But stipulation was that the loser didn't get a rematch, and I would be stunned if this match were not rematched in September.
They have one more pay-per-view before the...
So, unlike in the old days where you'd have a Jeff Jarrett finish that was just convoluted bullshit, and it was just for the sake of it, because they were trying to swerve you, and then when the show happened, like, nothing that occurred in the finish had anything to do with anything. If on Thursday everything they did plays into setting up a rematch, fine. But if not, too much stuff happened here.
There was a lot of bullshit. So, the worst thing was, after all the bullshit, after multiple referees and bumps, and the match being ruled a draw, and then being restarted. After all that, Aries just schoolboyed Roode and pinned him.
Yeah.
That really annoyed me, actually.
With a headstand.
Yes.
That was the best part.
Yeah, so Aries won. He's still champion. There was a point here where, like I say, where it looked like there was going to be ruled a draw, a double DQ or something. I don't remember, and frankly, I don't care. But I was hoping what the ruling would be was that both men would have lost, and since they both had given up their rematch clause, there would be a tournament that neither man was allowed into.
Sure.
That would have been awesome. Actually, it would have sucked, but it would have been funny.
You know,
That's a pay-per-view.
There's the pay-per-view. I think the pay-per-view, you would have enjoyed it better, Vinny, with a better crowd. The Impact Zone sucked, for the most part, I felt, on this show, and that always takes down the matches, the enjoyment level of them. But that's just my thought. Fans weren't nearly into Roode and Aries as they were last month.
No, they were not. Well, and part of that is the Impact crowd that we talked about before, and part of that is, like I say, they have. It would be easy to almost forget that match was on the show over the last month of TV.
That's true.
We talked about this. The last month of TV was entertaining to watch and did virtually nothing to build this pay-per-view.
Taya Valkyrie is a subject of the World of Hurt review this week.
It was.
Lance Storm student. I'll get an update tomorrow. Taya, they announced after the show, had signed with WWE, which is true. And I don't know what the status of that is. I don't remember her being cut, but I know that she's down working in AAA.
It strongly indicates she was cut.
And I'm not sure what the situation is. So anyway. To the back!
Sucks to be them then. What a horrible prize.
Let's get going on... I don't think we got any new songs here. So let's get going on Impact.
Impact was a show. Austin Aries came out.
I believe you start every single episode by saying that.
No, they have been kind of... It's much better than it was, but this show did not inspire me. They've been in a rut lately.
What's the last wrestling show, Vinny, that inspired you? And what did it inspire you to do?
Enjoy wrestling? I don't know which one it was. Most of them don't. That is true. Anyway, Austin Aries came out and said he had proven his title win was not a fluke. And everyone who thought his win was a fluke could drop the E and go fluck yourselves.
That's what he said.
This was what the man actually said. A scripted line, apparently.
Austin Aries has had the most god-awful dialogue. Although not as bad as, Claire Lynch. But a close second.
Well, she was not on the show.
Actually, trumping them all is Brooke Hogan, but we'll get to that.
I was going to say AJ on this show had some fantastically bad dialogue. So he jibber-jabbered for a while. Jeff Hardy interrupted, said he was going to win the series. They were talking about the Aces and Eights. Bully Ray came out and said, James Storm is in charge of that gang. And Aries said, maybe it's you. This went on for a while. Finally, the aces and eights appeared on the screen. They rambled on for a while about luck and commitment. They vowed to make an impact later tonight, and Ray started shouting, and suddenly we were in the middle of a Domino's commercial. This is a 60-second segment stretched out over like 6 minutes.
It's like the second week in a row that the opening segment has very abruptly cut to a Domino's commercial.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just a West Coast thing or it's just...
No, I'm watching it live, so it wouldn't be a West Coast thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless it's localized commercial, they just have to get on the air.
Magnus wrestled Samoa Joe. It was fun while it lasted. And Joe caught him in a wacky roll-up for a clean win.
He caught him in a La Magistral cradle, Vinny.
Did he?
The biggest, fattest La Magistral cradle I have ever seen.
I once tried to, as hysterical as this sounds, there are points in the ICW training ring where I was the, for lack of a better term, the head instructor. It's not my idea, but I was the best and most experienced guy there. So I was the one they looked up to.
Think about that, everyone.
Yeah. I just did my best. I did not rip them off if Tom Pritchard was listening. I just did my best. So, do you remember Trey Dog?
Vaguely.
Trey Dog was about 5'6" and 300 pounds. And when I first saw him, he was doing the world's fattest crow gimmick. And then he became like a pimp and changing his gimmick all the time, thinking that if he hit the right gimmick, he'd be a big star, I guess. Anyway, this 5'6", 300-pound man wanted to learn a La Magistral cradle. And so I showed him one, and I could do it. And he said, okay, I want to try that now. And I said, okay, and I got down on my hands and knees, and he scissored my arm and his legs and cradled it behind my back, and rather than roll over my back, he just dropped all his weight on my one remaining arm. This did not go well.
I remember on the new Portland Wrestling, on, I believe, the WB down in Portland, I once had a match. You could probably actually find it on YouTube if you look around. I had a match with Moondog Ed Moretti, and for some reason we came up with the idea that he was going to hit me with an Oklahoma roll. Not me hitting him.
No.
Him hitting me.
Yes.
He outweighed me by about 150 pounds. And neither of us were quite certain exactly how to do the move. But he said, I think I can do it. And it wasn't bad. It was not an Oklahoma roll. We concluded it was a
Nebraska roll.
Something like that. It was a
Iowa roll.
Nebraska roll or whatever the roundest state is. But he tried, and I managed to get my shoulders to the mat. So in the end, it was not a complete disaster.
The roundest state. I don't know. I have no idea what that would be. Hawaii, I guess.
Sure.
So, yeah, Joe wins. Magnus is sitting there steamed, and these guys were, of course, tag team champions not that long ago. So Joe sees Magnus is pissed, but he's not going to ask for a handshake, but he passes him on the back and goes to leave. Magnus snaps, and he grabs a chair, and he goes after Joe, and Joe gets his arm up to block the chair, but he starts selling the arm, so that makes sense. And Magnus just left, and Joe was pissed off, but also confused and hurt.
That actually, I shouldn't have laughed, but if you watched the Samoa Joe character for about the past 5 years, he's such a goddamn prick. He hates everybody. He's always in a bad mood and mean. And all of a sudden here on the show, we saw sensitive Joe with his feelings hurt.
Yes.
I found that to be so funny.
Madison cut a promo bragging about her win. A geek came up and said that Brooke Hogan wanted to see her in the ring. So after commercial, Madison comes out. She's talking about her win. And she calls out Earl. He came out and the fans chanted, "You screwed Brooke." So it only took 15 years. But they found something new to chant at him.
Yeah.
So speaking of Brooke, out came Brooke Hogan. She was concerned about Earl's integrity. She banned him from refereeing knockouts matches. Earl and Madison were pissed. Mostly Madison, because Earl's a bad actor. So Madison talked smack and dared Brooke to do something about it. So down to the ring charged angry Brooke Hogan.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
This is not intimidating.
I've said it before. I don't know Brooke Hogan, but I've seen a lot of interviews. I saw her on Hogan Knows Best. I saw her a little bit on Brooke Knows Best. she really comes across as like a nice girl, and
That's the problem.
she's in a crazy business. Her dad's nuts. Her mom's nuts. Her brother's whatever. But she seemed like the most level-headed. Actually, Hogan has always seemed rather level-headed, to be honest. But of the non-Hulk members of the family, she always seemed the most level-headed. And granted, if you know, Hogan's level-headedness is whatever it is.
There's something wrong with your level.
But Brooke always seemed like the most normal and never really seemed like, anybody. I mean, I can imagine like, if she lived around the area, come over and watch pay-per-views or whatever, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm sure she's very nice. But she doesn't need to be on the show. This is not her thing. She's not done this. She doesn't know what she's doing. She comes off completely clueless. And having to run to the ring and run off Madison, and then worse, when she turns around and aces and eights are in the ring and she has to drop the mic and cower into the corner. This was like, she made Claire Lynch look like TNA made the right hire. She was so bad. And it was even worse later when
this is the amazing thing, is this is not the work of Brooke.
She came out to introduce Taryn Terrell.
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that, but this was like the worst introduction of anybody in history.
Ever.
And then she backed up and she goddamn near fell off the stage.
I think you can't wait to talk about that.
I just can't. You know what it was? It was another example of, again, I don't watch the show live. So I got an email, I started to get emails at whatever time it was, 7:30 or whatever Pacific, or I don't know what time the show is I don't watch it live, but emails started coming in. It's all your fault. And I was like, what the fuck? What happened now? And so, of course, I had to go to the front page of the Observer site, and the headline was something like, Identity of Taryn Terrell. And I went, no! And sure as shit, Tiffany was on TNA. And the best part, I'm just jumping forward to this segment.
Yes, you are.
You had not gotten wind of what occurred on this program.
No.
So I said, Vinny, don't get on the internet. Because I wanted you to be in shock and awe. So apparently you don't follow the business close enough to know anybody's real name. Because Brooke comes out and introduces Taryn Terrell. And keep in mind, everybody, this is Vince Verhey, who's been doing this for a long fucking time. And you absolutely had no earthly idea who this blonde was.
Not a clue.
And I was like, Vinny, look at her face. No clue. Vinny, she's horrible at her job. No clue. Vinny, listen to her screaming. No clue. When did you finally figure out who this was?
I had to look it up. I went to the front page of the Observer after the show.
After the show!
Yes.
I thought you figured out in the middle of the match because, all of a sudden you just went, oh my God.
No,
and I was like, yes, see?
No, I was oh my God, because there was horrible wrestling going on.
Well, there was some horrible wrestling. And Tiffany was...
she was a goddamn horrible ref.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll give her credit. She was a lot better than a lot of other refs I've seen. However, why are your hands always on your knees? She was either counting or she was with her hands on her knees.
She was, moving across the ring with her hands on her knees like some kind of sexy crab.
I will say this, though. I have absolutely no problem with Tiffany being on TNA, and I have absolutely no problem with her refereeing in her outfit in the Knockouts matches. The highlight of the match was when someone pulled the tights, and she displayed what they had done by grabbing her short spandex and pulling them up her thigh as far as she could. Mini buys. And when Madison put her feet on the ropes and Taryn began to exert her authority, she reverted back to ECW GM. It was awesome. And then I forget what happened. Somebody won. Did Brooke win the title back?
Well, let's go back in time.
I absolutely completely forgot what happened.
You jumped ahead like an hour in the show.
I just have to talk about it. Should I play more Tiffany clips?
I don't see why not.
I shouldn't, because it certainly didn't help you identify her.
She didn't speak hardly.
All right. I'm going to find some while you talk about this.
So going back in time an hour. When last we left poor Brooke Hogan, she was alone in the ring with the aces and eights. They were going to get her. Outran all the guys in the opening segment. Aries, Bully Ray, Hardy. They scared the gang off. Sting and Angle and James Storm were close behind. Go to commercial, and they come back. Sting and Angle and Storm are in the ring. Maybe some other guys. And Sting cuts a great fiery promo saying, next week's open fight night, I'll tell you what, aces and eights, I'm calling you out at 8 p.m. So there's the time the show starts, Brian. It's at 8. And apparently you're not the only one who can't remember, because people still are tuning in late. So they want to make sure everyone knows the show starts at 8 now. So good for them.
Well, I was trying to do the math, whatever it meant, Pacific. So I guess I would have 6:30 is approximately when I got these emails.
I see. That'd be 9:30 Eastern.
You want some Tiffany?
Matter of fact, I do.
This is some Tiffany.
Oh, you mean a soundbite? Oh, all right.
Oh, Vinny. Tiffany and CM Punk.
CM Punk. Officially glad to have you back on ECW.
Yeah.
What can I help you with?
You know I'm straight edge, right? You know what that entails.
Yes, and I understand that's your personal lifestyle.
Okay. I understand that it's not your personal lifestyle, and I've done a little bit of research. I know you're not into the prescription medication, and I know you don't smoke, thankfully.
The best part is her
from what
facial
I understand,
expressions.
You like to drink.
Well, I'm not some self-centered prude who's antisocial. I like to have fun with friends.
I miss her so
like
much.
To party a little bit. You know, you should try it sometime. Loosen up. Have some fun. You should try being a human being.
Wow.
Welcome back.
I'm pretty sure she was supposed to be the babyface there.
I think so too, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, God, I miss her.
She's back!
If she had dialogue in the show, I would have recognized her immediately.
She's back.
She straightened her hair. She wasn't wearing a suit. She was in a referee outfit, which was much hotter.
This was great.
So Daniels and Kazarian were backstage. They had a Spider-Man comic. Apparently they're going to be making an appearance in the Spider-Man comics coming up.
What in the hell was this segment?
I don't know. So AJ Styles walks up. First thing he says, he announced to the world that he knows where babies come from.
Why did he announce this?
Maybe he just learned.
I hope not. He's got the tattoo of 3 of his own children on his ribs.
Maybe he never made the connection. Maybe he never put 2 and 2 together. He then explained...
I'm still trying to figure this out.
This is what he said, everyone. Don't yell at me. This is what AJ Styles said. That he would have to be drugged to sleep with, quote, a foot like Claire.
He called Claire a foot. What?
A foot like Claire. He said this, and somehow all 3 men kept a straight face. A foot like Claire.
Wow.
I would have had to be drugged to sleep with a foot like Claire.
I don't know if he's got some sort of fetish, just came out, or what?
Perhaps well, what he is saying is that she was too unattractive to bang, so maybe he considers feet to be terribly ugly.
Maybe she walks around backstage in a giant shoe.
A foot like Claire. I would have to be drugged to sleep with a foot like Claire's. Well, that's what he said.
Yep. Gets better.
This is the funniest thing he said since Stink, you're wrong. AJ always gets the best dialogue. All right, so now here's the funny thing, everyone. This is the point, not before this, but this is the point where the segment began to make no sense. So, AJ Styles said he was wrestling Daniels in the Bound for Glory series tonight. He said, if Daniels beat him, AJ would accept that he was the father of Claire's baby.
That is exactly what he said.
If you beat me, I will accept that I am the father of the baby. Not admit or sign over, accept. He will become true to him.
Now, keep in mind, he has denied this vociferously, and we're supposed to believe that, in fact, he's not the father.
He's denied it vociferously in the past 20 seconds.
But he is willing to accept it if Daniels beats him.
Yes. Now, there's more. If he beat Daniels, he said, then I get to take a paternity test.
Wow. Man,
So
what
you
a
mean somebody
win-win
the death father
situation
anyway.
for you.
Yes. So this made no sense.
Absolutely no sense.
Here's my
Not
assumption.
like loser has to take a paternity test.
No. He only takes a paternity test if he wins. If he loses, he must be the dad. There's no other possibility. Here's my theory on this.
Please explain.
They know this story sucks. And so, it sucks, and more importantly, it's beyond redemption. It cannot be saved at this point. So, the only thing they can do is try to make it so bad it's funny. That's their goal now. They're shooting to intentionally make this the worst storyline they can in hopes of generating comedy.
I see.
Do you have a better theory?
No.
Okay.
I think AJ, I don't know. I don't know what happened here.
A foot like Claire.
A foot like Claire. Let's have a match where if you win, I will accept that I'm the father. And if I win, I'll take a paternity test. What?
I don't know. So they had a match. It was filled with factual lines like when Daniels was trying to get a count-out win. Mike Tenay said with a straight face, if AJ gets counted out here, he has to admit that he's the dad.
Yes.
The more they said this, the stupider it got. The wrestling was really, really good.
It was a great match.
Yeah, it's been a long time since AJ has had anything less than a good match. So, Kaz appeared from under the ring. He tripped AJ on a suplex. He held the foot down, so Daniels got the win. But then right after the ref counted 3, he stood up, he saw Frankie on the floor, he restarted the match, and AJ immediately won with a roll-up. Mm-hmm. And then he planted Daniels with a Styles Clash anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he didn't just win with that move, but whatever.
Don't know.
So that was that segment. We had a segment with Sting on the phone with Hogan. Hogan was on speakerphone so we could hear him. He vowed to be there next week when Sting called out the Aces and Eights. He said he was not ready to fight, but he assured Sting that he was ready to go old school. I don't know what that means. I don't care. Hardy confronted Storm in the locker room. The point was that Storm vowed to be in Hardy's match against... He vowed to be in Hardy's corner in his match against Ray to make sure the Aces and Eights did not interfere.
Yeah.
Rude came out for a boring promo.
This just went on forever.
He said that he lost and he gets no rematches.
Wasn't this like the exact same promo that James Storm did as a babyface? Remember that?
Sure. Aries, you mean?
No. Remember when James Storm lost at the cage match and he came out and he was so depressed?
Actually, in a way, yeah, it had the same end at least.
He put his microphone down and walked away.
Yeah, that yeah, I had the same conclusion. I think that the difference was...
But this went on forever, and
that's one.
It's understandable to care that James Storm is really sad and let down, but Bobby Roode is a heel.
Yeah. Well, the one difference is that James Storm blamed himself. Roode blamed literally everyone else in the world.
Well, yeah.
But the point was, he was sad he lost. He didn't know what to do. He put on the mic and walked away, and this took forever and was lame.
Yeah.
We got a preview of next week's Gut Check contestant. He talked about growing up in a terrible neighborhood in Jackson, Mississippi. Murder was a constant way of life, and finally his adopted brother was killed. He said this was his last chance in wrestling to provide for his family, and they showed pictures of his kids. This is a tragic, gripping story, and would have really made an impression on me if they had only given us his name.
We did rewind, and...
We rewinded, everyone.
Yeah, I don't think we got
There was
his
no
name.
graphic. There was no explanation. There was just a guy. This show sucked. I take it back. This is not just a show.
I hope this guy is good because the story is like, you got to hire the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this was all him walking the streets of apparently Jackson talking about it. And he like I say, obviously the story itself is a big deal, but you couldn't take your eyes off him talking about it.
Yeah, this is the wrong guy to not sign.
Yes.
And they've signed a lot of guys, and we still have seen none of them.
Yes.
And girls, actually.
Yeah. So here is the segment with Tessmacher and Madison. You explained everything. You explained everything that happened in this, but I'm going to go over it anyway. So Madison's in the ring. Tessmacher is in the ring. Brooke Hogan comes out. She does her full entrance for the second time in 90 minutes. Then, as noted, she did the worst job of introducing anyone ever. I believe that she said, "Here is the official Knockouts referee Turturro." It's about like that. And immediately after saying this, she fell down.
Yeah, poor Brooke.
So Taryn Terrell came out. She was Tiffany. I didn't recognize her. She has straight hair. She's a hot blonde with big boobs. That's all I cared about. She was a god-awful ref. Made herself the center of attention at all times. The wrestling was not very good.
I, honest to God, did not watch a second of the match. I was fixated on Tiffany.
There's worse ways to spend your day. Brooke won with the face buster, so she's champion again after one show. This was a poor segment.
Honest to God, completely forgot what happened at the finish.
Yeah.
How about that? What the hell was the finish? Oh, yeah, it was that facebuster gimmick.
Her weird atomic drop into a facebuster.
That's right.
Thing.
Yeah.
We got a video from the Aces and Eights. They vowed to show up at 8 p.m. next week, but said they also had business to take care of tonight. The best part of this, there's one of these where they're all around a poker table, whatever, and there's the one guy in the center who does all the talking, and behind him, sitting on a box, is the small guy with the blonde hair, and he can't just sit there and bide his time while the guy speaks. He's got to sit there and rub his hands together because he's evil. Villainous. I laughed. And we had the main event. Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy. And Storm was out there in Hardy's corner. So, of course, he got bumped. They did a double down. Aces and Eights hit the ring, but before they could do anything, out came AJ Styles and Austin Aries and a bunch of guys. So they scared him off. Hardy hit Bully Ray with a twist of fate for the win, so he gets 7 points. Ray didn't care. He stood up, started shouting at Storm, wanted to know what was going on. Storm threw a super kick at him. Ray dodged. Storm hit Hardy. Bully Ray just disappeared. So you got Hardy down in the ring, Storm standing over him, looking at him. Then the Aces and Eights appeared behind Storm doing the golf clap, and he slowly turned around, and as soon as he did, they laid him out, and that was the end of the show.
Well, we think my DVR cut out.
And close enough.
But I do think that I don't know if this was the plan or if they switched it up after the last two tapings. But between Thursday and the pay-per-view, I mean, to me it was very clear that James Storm, the people had not figured out that he was actually a babyface.
Yeah.
I think that I thought when the whole thing began, it was like, Bully Ray has no evidence. Why are these babyfaces believing this guy? But as it turns out, not only were the babyfaces believing him, but the fans were as well. And James Storm's reaction, it was just they were killing this guy. So I think they I don't know if they did. They may pull the trigger early just because they realized what was happening. But it was good to have this reveal, I think. This was the time. So next week, I guess he'll be helping out or something. Yeah.
To the back!
All right.
I'm spent.
All right, we're going to blast this Impact. It was a lousy show.
It was really no good.
The Aces and Eights arrived at the building. When I say they arrived at the building, the violent gang of outsiders who had savagely beaten everyone they had seen got a fancy entrance where they rode 8 abreast on motorcycles through the parking lot as their theme song played, and then they all posed for close-ups. So Sting leads virtually the entire roster down to the ring, maybe all of it. A bunch of guys were out there. He showed a photo montage of everyone the Aces and Eights had attacked. Fans were chanting, "We want Hogan."
I think they said How do they describe those still photos? I'm going to show it in all of its vivid glory or something like that.
Something like that.
And they just had like 2 still photos.
Yes.
Like, that's not very vivid or glorified.
No music to it or anything.
No.
Just, there's a man down and some feeder on him. So he called out James Storm. Storm said, I told you it wasn't me, and now let's fight.
They sure blew that off fast.
Yep. Sting. That was the last thing Storm did on the show of any substance. Sting acknowledged the Hogan chants. Said the Aces and Eights had pissed the Hulkster off. He was here tonight, so come on and fight. 2 men in Aces and Eights gear came down to the ring. The wrestlers invited them down. So these 2 guys get in the ring. There's like 10 wrestlers in there, and one of them pulls out nunchucks.
And why not?
And why not?
It's 2012.
And little lesson for those of you who maybe watched like The Master on TV in the 80s. If there's 2 of you and 10 of them, nunchucks ain't going to help. So, indeed, they got beaten savagely here. And one of them was unmasked and bleeding from the mouth. And he laughed and said, thank you. I just got patched in, which apparently is biker gang lingo for an initiation or something. So he promised that they would be in for a long, painful night. And boy, were truer words.
He was right.
This man was a prophet. Tess Mocker came out for a promo. It was open fight night, and she was the champion, mind you. And she wanted to challenge Tara because Tara was the teacher, and she wanted to see if she could beat her. All right. So
she was her teacher.
Yeah.
She was a teacher, and she needed a beating. I hated school.
I don't think that's what she meant. So they have a new camera angle where they start backstage and follow the wrestler all the way up through the gorilla position and then down the ramp. And I think they did this exclusively to have Tara's ass on TV for a long time. On top of that, Taryn Terrell came down.
Taryn Terrell.
Whatever. So.
Taryn Terrell.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Seriously, doesn't matter.
Well.
Okay, no. So, yeah, the wrestlers are in there. Then they play the ref's music, and the ref comes out last because she's the biggest star. The first half of this match, I thought this match was terrible at the time. Little did I know what we were in for. The first half of this match, I thought they were making a concerted effort to top the Women's Battle Royal on Raw for the worst women's match of the year. It picked up significantly in the second half. Tara won with a superplex, so the teacher beat the student. They hugged afterwards, and Taryn, is it Terrell you said?
Taryn Terrell.
Tiffany. I'll just call her Tiffany. Tiffany didn't do anything.
There was a lot less hands on knees in this match.
Yeah. Apparently they told her, walk like a human being. Show the Aces and Eights attacking Pope. Had an x-ray of Pope's broken collarbone or shoulder, whichever it was. So Sting gathered AJ Styles, Robbie E., and Rob Van Dam and said, listen, you 3 guys never got a chance to wrestle Pope in the tournament, so you're all short one match. So you're going to wrestle each other in a 3-way for a chance to earn points. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So we had AJ versus Robbie E. versus Rob Van Dam. Explained during this match that not only did AJ agree to take a paternity test only if he beat Daniels last week, but he also agreed to learn the results of this test on live national TV during a professional wrestling show.
What better time?
We're taking place later on this program. So, AJ stuff still looked great. His moonsault DDT got fucked up for, like, seriously the first time ever. Although I think it was Rob Van Dam's fault, but. So you know how throughout the course of his career, RVD has always hit the frog splash and then rolled on the mat holding his own ribs? Well, he did that here. He hit the frog splash on AJ. He's rolling around holding his own ribs. And then Robbie hits the ring and covers RVD and pins him.
Yeah, he didn't steal the pin on the guy who got hit with the move.
No.
He stole the pin on the guy who
hit the move.
Can't even say stole the pin. I don't know what he did.
He pinned the guy who hit the move.
Yeah.
RVD was pinned because he hit his own finisher.
It's an odd swerve.
The best part of this is that because of this shocking upset win, Robbie moves all the way up from last to next to last.
Well, he's still last because Pope is out with an injury.
I suppose. All right.
So he moved from last to last.
He passed Pope, so yes. He moved last of 12 to last of 11. So Jeff Hardy called out Rob Terry. Fans chanted steroid at him.
Why did he?
Because Terry attacked him like 2 weeks ago or something.
I see.
It happened. I remembered. It's all right. They had a short match. Fans chanted steroid. Jeff won with the twist of fate and senton.
Steroid or steroids?
Probably steroids.
Okay.
Hard to tell. Daniels and Kazarian did a quick promo hyping the paternity test. The only reason I mentioned this was because Kazarian called AJ a redneck scrote. Sting did a very goofy promo calling out the aces and eights. He came off like a clown here in a very, very, very bad way. And then we had the paternity test. So AJ comes down to the ring to see if he has fathered a child. Fans were so concerned and taking this so seriously, they chanted, "Who's your daddy?" AJ apologized to everyone. Said he would take responsibility for his actions if it was his baby. But if it wasn't, he didn't ever want to hear from Cass and Daniels again. Borash calls out Claire Lynch, who did not come out. Instead, we got Kaz and Daniels.
Before you go any further.
Yes.
Got an email here, and...
I got the one, so...
Yes, Kaz and Daniels had an explanation for why Claire was not there. And we had... actually, one of our... I can't even say just one of the listeners. One of our friends who has traveled to Vegas, Paul... He asked us to politely not mention the phrase that they used because his sister just had this for real, and his niece was deprived of oxygen and has suffered brain damage. And he's very upset with this. And so we would like to send out best wishes to Paul, as well as Emily and the entire family. And I didn't write the segment, but I apologize for the segment. I guess that's the best way to say it.
It's really awful.
These things are horrible.
It's terrible news. It is much worse than a crappy wrestling show. But that's what we're here to talk about. So, Kaz blamed America's bullying and prison problems on AJ and other absentee filers. Daniels explained that Claire was dealing with complications in a hospital, said it was AJ's fault because he had ignored her. Called AJ a selfish bastard when a woman appeared. She identified herself as Grace Stein. She was Claire Lynch's attorney, and she had a statement to read. Kaz and Daniels did not want her to read this segment, but then they stood back and let her read the entire thing for several minutes. So the statement from Claire Lynch said that Kaz and Daniels had put her up to the whole thing, that she had put a drug in AJ's, quote, cola beverage, in the hopes that they would be able to blackmail AJ, said she had never been pregnant, and finally, she apologized to AJ and said, "Don't worry, everyone, he's still a good man." And she and Borash left, and AJ attacked the heels, and they ran away. Besides just being offensive to people who are going through real trauma in their life, the segment was very, very, very long, and obviously, they had to end the angle somehow. But when the angle is this lame, it would have been better to show up, end the angle, and get out. Instead, they dragged out the lame angle to the lame storyline.
Yeah.
When the payoff is, never mind, none of this really happened, just get it done and move on. They had a brief promo with Chris Louis. He is the poor gut check contestant, I guess, that they had the awesome video package for last week. Yeah, the aces and eights walking around backstage, just fucking around. Sting shows up behind him, acts all wacky and goofy and Joker Stingy, which is awful.
I had a long day. I was tired. I was crabby. I was hungry. And Hulk Hogan in this segment.
Hulk Hogan appeared.
Hulk Hogan turned everything around for me in this segment.
I quoted him. Hogan appeared with a stick. He beat him up with a stick.
It was a bat. Sting threw the bat, and Hogan caught it.
I stand corrected. It was a fucking bat. So the point is, he hit him with a weapon. Then he said, "Rah," and "Fwa," and "Ha ha," over and over and over again. He threatened to cut their hearts out, and I believe he said feed it to his dog if they touched his daughter again. Then he continued to go, And then
this is very disconcerting.
Sting started giggling and gripping Hulk Hogan's biceps and marking out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
That's what happened on this segment.
I laughed uproariously during this segment.
I did too, although I had a bigger laugh later.
I will say, however, in all seriousness, poor Hulk. The way they shot this, if you watch this show back, maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. The way they shot this, they showed Hogan from behind. He swung the bat. It didn't go near anybody. They all fell down. And then he said, it's Husha, hey, Husha, and huffed and puffed. And this dude can't move. Between this and the other segment he was in.
The later segment is actually much worse, I thought, because here you could barely see him at all and it was in shadow. The other one, you could see him clearly from the waist up and it was fully lit, and he's Kali-rific.
Oh, it was sad. This dude is completely immobile. And they tried to shoot it to hide it, but it's kind of like, you know, the thin person who's like, I don't like this outfit. It makes me look fat. I always laugh at that. It's like, no, it actually doesn't. The only way to look fat is to be fat. And that's kind of the deal here. Like, they're trying to hide the fact that Hogan can't move, but it's like, you can't hide that. The dude cannot move at all. It's impossible to hide. And it's sad.
Guess who appeared on TV? Alex Silva.
He did.
Swear to God.
He's around.
He's in Ohio Valley. He was just there. He didn't really do anything. He talked a lot about his chance at Impact and what it meant for his career and how important it was to deliver in the ring when you got the chance. So we had Chris Louis versus Gunner. I started writing some unfriendly things about Chris Louis. And then I erased them all because I realized, you know what?
I felt bad for the guy.
He's doing the best he can.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at TNA. You can't tell me that this guy, he was so bad here that it could not possibly have been that much worse than his tapes or whatever they saw when they sent him in. And the fact that they put this guy on TV when he was in no position to be put on TV, that's on them.
Yeah.
Everything that a wrestler can do to be on TV, he did badly. His offense looked bad. His body looked bad. He fucked up a spot and responded by jumping up and going, yeah, to draw attention to the fact he fucked it up. He was skinny fat. He got blown up in seconds.
I felt bad for the guy, but oh my God, was this a horrendous wrestling match?
Yeah.
On live television.
So Gunner pinned him.
And like I said last week, they showed his story again, and I presume it's true. Maybe it's not. I presume it's true. And when you watch the story of his life and the tragedies that he's endured, the first thing you think is, well, they have to hire this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To not hire this guy just seems so cold. But he's so bad. He's horrendous. And I don't know. We'll see what they do next week.
If they explain, because they had Alex Silva on the show, if they explain that getting a contract just means they're going to send you to developmental forever, it's not that big a deal. And clearly, because everyone's gotten a contract and none of them have come back yet.
They should probably have made that clear at the beginning.
Yeah. But this is not good. ODB was there. She's on the phone with Eric. Hasn't seen him in weeks. He left to get fried chicken. I'm going to just cut to the chase of what she said. She wanted him to come back with fried chicken and also to bang her. And then since he was not there, she was going to go bang someone else.
Basically, yes.
Mr. Anderson wrestled Bully Ray. First, I started laughing because after all these years in the two biggest companies in the nation, Mr. Anderson is still dead weighting guys on body slams. It's amazing to me. Then came the funniest part of the entire show. This is a planned spot. This is what they wanted to do. Mr. Anderson went for that rolling fireman's carry, and he got Ray up on his shoulders. Then he teetered, and he tottered, and he weebled, and he wobbled.
Yes.
And he fell down onto his face. Because Bully Ray is too fat.
Yeah.
So it's a funny spot anyway. And it's funnier most of all because Bully's not as fat as he used to be. This is not the 400-pound ECW Bubba Ray Dudley.
Well, Mr. Anderson also isn't as strong as he used to be.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
One of my favorite indie spots of all time involves, of all people, punk rock prod Fender Gibson, and Combat Girl.
This I gotta hear.
This is in...
I remember when I wrestled a Combat Girl in the Battle Royal.
She hit you as hard as she could.
No, remember I'd call a bunch of different spots, and no matter what I said, she interpreted it as hit me in the balls.
Right. Yeah. So Fender's in there, I think. And he goes to suplex Combat Girl, and he can't get her up because she's just too fat. So he turns around, and he tags in his partner, Punk Rock Prod, and they try to suplex her together at the same time, and they still can't do it because she was just too fat. I was roaring with laughter. They buried all three of themselves for my own comedic amusement.
Yes.
Oh, God. So, anyway. So they're doing this match. They're trying to do these super dramatic near falls like it's a pay-per-view.
I wonder what the
main
hell
event.
ever happened to Combat Girl.
I don't care. Like, was it Tim's sister-in-law or something?
I think so.
Yeah. I'm sure she's fine. So, in the middle of this match, they're trying to do all these dramatic near falls to make it a big deal, and they're failing. It was a forgettable Impact match. Meanwhile, in the backstage, Angle, Gunner, and Rob Terry start beating up Aces and Eights. Then it cuts away again. So Anderson eventually wins clean with a mic check. He's like in the middle of the pack in the Bound for Glory series now.
Still, I'm thinking about Combat Girl. That was the name they came up with for her.
Yeah.
Let's put you in camo, and we'll call you Combat Girl. Yeah.
Don't ask me.
Wrestling back in the day.
Got a video from the Aces and Eights leader. He vowed to see everyone real soon. Haven't we been seeing you all night? Throughout this show. Well, we're going to see him more. Because then it was time for the main event segment. Sting called the Aces and Eights out for what I swear was the 93rd time on this television show alone.
Yeah.
It occurred to me during this segment that Austin Aries had not spoken on the show. Austin Aries had not wrestled on the show. Austin Aries had not appeared on the show, except for the first segment where he was only in the background, and then this one. Bobby Roode was not on the show at all. I don't think he was mentioned at all. So the fans were chanting for Hogan over everything else. Never got him. So there's a long wait where nothing happened for a while. And then the Aces and Eights appeared. And then a giant brawl, and he used that word brawl loosely, broke out. They did some stuff. Crowd reacted like it was any other Impact segment ever. Anderson called one guy... It was funny. Anderson called one guy a bad word, and they tried to censor it and failed. So what you actually heard was, beep, fucker, beep.
Oops.
Yep. He got it exactly wrong. Then it showed Hogan and Storm and AJ brawling with dudes backstage. This is the part where Hogan just looks sad.
Yeah.
So this fight lasted days and nights. Actual wars have been fought in less time than this brawl took place. They brawled, they clubbered, they wailed on each other, they punched and they groaned, and they threw each other on the walls. And they went backstage, and they went outside, and they brawled around ringside, and they brawled in the ring. Went on and on and on and on and on. And after Christ knows how long, somehow, actually I should say this, there was like 14 guys in the ring, and 13 of them were TNA wrestlers. And then suddenly it was down to Austin Aries and 6 guys by himself. I have no idea how this happened.
Where did everyone else go?
I don't know.
Out of the building, apparently.
They may have gotten bored and taken a nap. So they bring a section of the guardrail into the ring. They put his arm through it. They whack it with a chair. He screams. Fans cheer for Hogan. They got Bully Ray instead. He came down with a chair. He chased them all off. And the Aces and Eights got on their bicycles or motorcycles.
I like that. They should have come on bicycles.
That would have been better. And they all drove off. That was the end of the show. Nothing good happened. Lots of bad stuff happened. Some of it was so bad it was funny.
Yeah, this was not a stellar Impact in any way.
I actually look back. Is there anything I actually... my computer is pretty frozen. Where's my pointer? There it is. I'm going to see if there is anything I enjoyed on the show going back over this.
I seem to think the three-way was
laughter.
all right. Three-way was all right. Hogan's laughter.
Three-way was fine.
It was hilariously bad gut check.
I suppose. And nunchucks.
That's right, nunchucks. That didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah, I guess early on, the Aces and Eights, they just sent out geeks, I guess is the story. and those guys got beat up. And then they sent out the big guns at the end because near the end they were still playing cards or something backstage.
I don't know.
And then we just had a big brawl, and it went on forever. And I think the crowd kind of started getting into it at the end because it went on so long, but they sure didn't care much at the beginning. And then all I could figure was they're going to strip Austin Aries at the title, and that's how Bobby Roode gets it back. Because here we are. It is August 24th. We have no main event for the September pay-per-view at this point. So, yeah, this was not a good show. Nor was this one, really, everybody. Apologize. To the back. I do have until January. All right, let's do Impact here. What I thought was a fine show this particular evening.
I have nothing to complain about for Impact. One final note, though, on J. Albert Robinson. You may want to ask another guest about this fellow. Studied at Storm Wrestling Academy.
The gut check guy?
No, J. Albert Robinson, the Broken Face guy.
Oh, I see. That's right. Really, a Storm Wrestling Academy? I'll ask Lance about that next time he's on.
That's a hell of an idea you have there. Impact opened with Austin Aries coming out in street clothes after being a non-factor on this show for most of the past several weeks, since last pay-per-view, really. He came out and said that he was the target of the Aces and Eights. Last week they'd injured his hand, but they made a critical mistake. You injured my right hand, he said. Then he held up his left hand. I punch people with my left hand. This was funny. This is very funny. It should not have been as funny as it was. So he called out the Aces and Eights. Out came Sting and Hogan. Hogan has grown his mean guy beard back. He said, brother, Jack, Stingmon, brother, Stinger, and brother. Invited the Aces and Eights to attack. And the Aces and Eights eventually appeared on screen. He said they would show up later, and that was the end of it. And the only question I have here is, at some point, shouldn't the guys in the truck have some kind of clue as to who these men are, or at least where they're coming from?
You're overthinking the Aces and Eights, Vinny.
They appear to be patching in a live feed.
Am I overthinking by wondering where Bobby Roode has been for now 2 weeks?
I assume he's just still despondent over his loss.
Not to mention the fact that the pay-per-view is not this Sunday, but the Sunday after, and I have absolutely no idea who Austin Aries is challenging for the title.
As far as I can tell, nobody.
Or defending the title against, I guess would be more accurate.
Yeah, I believe the pay-per-view is just the finals of the tournament. And Austin, based on this show, as we'll get to in the end, I assume he will have a fight with an Aces and Eights guy.
So we're not doing Bobby Roode and James Storm at Bound for Glory?
That's what it looks like to me. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
We had I enjoyed this segment. ODB kept calling Eric. She's not seen him in months. First, she said he had 10 minutes to call her back and they were done. And 10 minutes went by, so she called him and said 5 more minutes. Then another hour went by. She said she was going to give him 1 more week. She said she still wanted fried chicken and lovin'. Don't we all?
I do.
We had RVD versus James Storm in a Bound for Glory series match. A very long match. Went through a commercial break. It started off a little ugly, but then it built and built, and by the end when they were going for all the near falls, the crowd was totally into it. So Rob had not hit, in every match he does that somersault into a monkey foot. And he didn't hit that for the entire match, and he finally hits it at the end, and he launches James Storm high into the sky with a massive monkey flip. And he goes for another one, and somersaults right into a super kick for the finish. That was awesome. So this clinched the top spot in the standings for James Storm, and they said that since he was the top point getter, in the semifinals he would get to choose his opponent.
Well, unless somebody else ends up the top point getter.
I thought they said he clinched the number 1 spot.
Well, he did at the moment, but there's still matches left.
By clinching, Brian, that means nothing can possibly happen where he would not be number 1.
I realize that, Vinny, but throughout the rest of the show, they kept stating that the guy who ended up with the most points was going to get to choose their opponent. And so it would make no sense for them to say that if he had, in fact, clinched the number 1 spot at the end.
Well, one of us is confused, maybe both of us, and that's bad for them. They failed to explain their concept.
Let me check the TNA website and find out how these standings are currently. I would like to add that I was not as impressed with this match as you were, largely because RVD gets slower and slower with each passing day, and that's kind of sad. And I thought that the finish was somewhat mistimed, and particularly when they went to show the replay. And
well, the
I don't know
replay
if
sucked.
they screwed up or if they did this on purpose because it was mistimed, but they showed Rob doing the forward roll, and it was like frozen. The screen was frozen, and then they showed the very tail end of the kick, just, RVD falling down, no actual contact, and that was that. So there you go.
That
All
did
right.
look horrible. That part is true.
Let's see here. The updated standings for... that doesn't help. I just clicked the upcoming standings, and it took me to the pay-per-view page. Hold on a second. Updated standings in the Bound for Glory series. Here we go. So, we've got Samoa Joe he has 68 points right now, and he has one match left. So if he gets 10 points, he will finish in 78, so he will be the leader.
Oh, well, there you go then.
And then we've got RVD, Bully Ray, and AJ Styles, it says, are the... Or wait, no, so...
Styles is out.
Yeah, I guess maybe this is not updated, actually. Anyway, go ahead.
That may not be updated with tonight's show.
It's always good to not have your website updated after tonight's live show.
But yeah, by the way, that show did end, doing some math here, almost 6 hours ago. Madison came out for a promo. Taryn Terrell was also out there, just because. She did not get her own entrance this week. So Madison demanded a title match from Tessmacher immediately. Out came ODB instead. She said that Brooke Hogan had booked her to wrestle Madison. Madison said, no, referee, check her out. And they talked and talked and talked and talked, and it was the kind of thing where it looked like something went short, and they had nothing to do but try and talk and fill time. And when the match finally started, ODB squashed her in 30 seconds.
All right, I got our upcoming... Actually, this... AJ is still in the running, because RVD and Bully Ray are tied. So, first place is James Storm, 73 points, no more matches. Second place is Joe with 68 points and one more match, which means he could conceivably end up in first place and get to choose his opponent. RVD and Bully Ray both have 55, so there's no way that they can end up number one, and they're tied. So AJ Styles also has 50 points. So I guess...
You know, like minus 10 points for a DQ?
I guess RVD or Bully Ray would have to be DQ'd to fall out of the standings or something. I don't know. I don't have time to think about it right now. My brain, it's late. I'm bad at math. Whole 9 yards. But next week we'll find out who the final four are. But Samoa Joe could end up number one.
All right. Well, there you go. So after ODB wins, who should come out but Eric Young? He had a suit on. He had fancy sunglasses. He also had a keg of beer and a bucket of chicken. He explained to his wife he had been very successful in Hollywood.
Before you conclude this report here, I just want everyone to know when you're listening to this that I was watching this downstairs on a big screen television, and my mother-in-law was in the room. So go ahead, Vinny.
All right. So out comes Eric Young, suit, sunglasses, chicken, beer. He explained that he had been very successful in Hollywood, but now he had chicken and beer and it was time to go. ODB was upset. She said this is not the man she married. The fan said he wanted chicken. Eric Young proceeded to strip down to his American flag Speedos. He has disgusting back knees, so disgusting that Taz had to point it out. He called it a rash. And so there's Eric Young in his American flag Speedo, and ODB proceeded to leap into his arms and plant a big wet kiss on him, and they're a happy couple again.
So this was the classic example of a moment that made you embarrassed to be a wrestling fan.
Sucks to be you. Speaking of things that embarrass you to be a wrestling fan, they recapped the finish of the Claire Lynch angle. And AJ said, "I'm just glad it's all over."
I'm sure he is.
Indeed. The gut check judges got together to discuss last week's debacle.
Oh, my God.
At no point, not for 1 second, did any of them pretend that last week's segment did not suck. They know it was horrible. They didn't try to cover up that it was horrible. They acknowledged its horribleness to the world. Pritchard tried to make excuses for putting him on TV, saying that in the photos that he'd received, the man had been in shape. They must have been old. But then he showed up out of shape and failed. Sting and Hogan met with Kaz and Chris Daniels. I love this segment. Hogan cut a promo on them, saying basically chewing them out for all they had done to AJ, and AJ wasn't done with them yet. Meanwhile, they were still his tag champs, and he was going to make them defend their belts whether they liked it or not. And Kaz and Daniels, they look like complete geeks, but they're kind of supposed to be, because Daniels, I mean, he came in wearing a scarf over an X-Men t-shirt, carrying an Apple TV, wearing sunglasses indoors, so, yeah, he came off looking like a goof, and that's fine. So, finally, the champions were sent packing, and then Sting and Hogan were just two old dudes making fun of each other for a while, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe.
I can at least add that Frankie Kazarian called Sting Heath.
He did call Sting Heath at one point.
Heath.
Yes.
At first I thought he said Keith, and I was completely baffled.
No, Heath.
Go on.
AJ Styles wrestled Samoa Joe.
This was great.
I'm pretty sure they've never had a bad match. This certainly was not a bad match. It was a very, very good match. AJ, he no longer does stupid stuff like flying neck first into guardrails or anything, but he did take a hell of a beating here from the Big Samoan. And AJ was desperate for a submission win. I think he needed a submission to advance. And Joe had a bad arm because Magnus hit him with a chair. So AJ just kept going for an armbar. He kept going for it and kept going for it and kept going for it. And he finally got it, and Joe immediately stacked him up and pinned him for the finish.
I thought this match was great. I thought the match told a great story. And this was the first... I can't say it was the first show, but this was a show where you really understood what the Bound for Glory series has done over the past couple of months, in the sense that how many times have we seen AJ Styles and Samoa Joe wrestle? About 1,000. How many times have we seen Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy wrestle? About 1,000. Because they are now doing matches at the tail end of this Bound for Glory series, first off, you had the added story of AJ needing a submission in this match. And he kept going for it and going for it and going for it. And the fans were into the match more because they knew it's do or die here. And to kind of sink his way deeper into the tournament, AJ needs this submission. And Joe is on his way to being the number one guy if he gets to pinfall here. And all of the matches on this show, all of the Bound for Glory series matches that we saw, even though we've seen them a million times, they meant a hell of a lot more this time around because of the Bound for Glory series concept. The Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle match, I mean, flat out, it was a match where the winner makes the final 4 or 5, and the loser's out. And as a result, it made sense for them to have this crazy battle and kick out of all these finishers, and crowd is super into it and going nuts at the finish, and it is all because the Bound for Glory series. That's what happens when you do... This was not the best tournament of all time, obviously. I mean, they've had a million better tournaments in Japan and such, and last year's tournament obviously was a complete disaster. But if you even do a tournament mildly well, and this was actually done better than mildly well, they did a good job with this tournament. It really makes the matches at the end of the tournament really mean something. And I think there are things they could have done a little better And next year, I'm sure they're going to make some changes. They made some changes, from day one through today. Obviously, they made some changes. But the Bound for Glory tournament this year has been a success. And this show was a great example of that. We're coming down to the wire, and so people are really, really caring about matches. And the stories of the matches make more sense because there's meaning to the matches now. So I thought this was great. I thought all the matches on the show were great, both in the ring and the stories they told. And this was 2 thumbs up.
My biggest complaint about Raw and SmackDown, at least on the last show we did, was how wins and losses don't ever matter. And even when a surprising guy wins, the loser still ends up on top at the end of the show. That did not happen on this episode of Impact, and that has not happened in TNA in a while. There is a winner of each segment, and that winner ends up, the decisive man on top. We'll get to Aries in a while, but it happened throughout all of these matches. Wins and losses mattered a lot, and they mattered throughout the tournament. So yes, the tournament as a whole gets a hearty thumbs up. It was time for the gut check decision.
All I got to say about this is if Lila Lodge felt bad about World Hurt, she can sleep easy now.
Someone else has it worse than her.
Oh, my God, this poor guy. I remember when this guy, they showed like his life story, and he's talking about, he's all this trials and problems in his lead, shootings for crying out loud. And after watching, it was like, there's no way they can cut this guy after telling the story. I was wrong. Boy, was I wrong. Not only did they cut this poor guy, they buried him 6 feet under.
They told him to get out of the business in as polite a manner as possible.
It wasn't even like one guy said yes and one guy said no. It was like one judge said no, the other judge said no, get out of the business, and that was it. Didn't even have to go to the third guy.
They had this guy, his whole horrible life story, and then he had his horrible match last week, and he comes out. I don't know if this is his idea. He had to know that his odds here were slim. But he comes out and he says hi to his wife and infant in the front row. And he gets in the ring. And the inevitable happens. They told him the truth. And as soon as he got a second no, they cut right to his wife and child. And I just thought, you assholes. Not so much for cutting him, because he did not deserve the contract, but you didn't have to cut to his family at that moment. That was a dick move.
Well, I'm sure let's not fall for too much of this. I don't know what's what.
Well, speaking of dick moves, Joey Ryan was there. He had a megaphone in the crowd. Said this is all a farce. They were playing God with a man's career. He threw a drink in Al Snow's face.
They are. That's what all bosses do.
That's also true, actually.
Is that not? Yes, your boss plays God with your career. He's the boss.
He threw a drink in Al Snow's face, and Al Snow and Brother Love chased him through the crowd. I want this storyline to go somewhere now.
Well,
it's been like 6 months. Hogan and Sting met with Joe Park Esquire. He said they could bring criminal charges and civil lawsuits against the Aces and Eights. They determined they needed his help and sent him to investigate. Are you there?
I am here. I got a baffling email as you were reading that.
All right.
I presume this can only be spam, but it's sent directly to me. It says here, the subject line, will you create a forum for the website? The email says, hi, I got this idea. I was wondering if you were going to create a discussion forum for the website. You might have noticed that many websites have one. What I've noticed is a forum will do two things. It will make people come back to the website more often because they will be able to start discussions themselves, not just watch and listen. People will bring more people to the website for you because they will write tons of interesting content that will point back to the website. I know how forums work and have an easy way to create one if you need any tips. I've created a couple myself. What do you think of this idea?
No link?
Well, I think he wants me to just email him back.
Fascinating.
I need to find out if this person's a subscriber. You go on, and I'm going to investigate this situation.
I'm going with badly written spam.
Yeah, but there's no link to it. That's the baffling part about
that's the badly written part.
I see.
Yeah.
I suspect it's spam, but it's so preposterous that I can imagine someone actually sending it to me. All right, go on.
Kurt Angle had a great match with Jeff Hardy. It did the full entrances and intros like this was a pay-per-view main event. As noted, the loser of this match was out of the tournament. The winner survived at least another day. They only went about 8 minutes, but they packed a ton of wrestling in that 8 minutes. They hit all their moves. They kicked out of everything. They basically, Jeff got a bunch of near falls, then Kurt got a bunch of near falls, and finally Jeff hit the senton for the clean win. Probably 3.5 stars or more. Could easily have been more, but again, only 8 minutes. So, match is over. Jeff
he
wins.
Actually hit 2 sentons. It was the second senton that finally did Kurt in after he kicked out of literally everything under the sun, both guys. I thought this was like the best 8-minute match you could possibly have.
It's up there. I don't know how they could have done better with the time they had. So, Angle is out of the tournament now. He's been beaten cleanly by this man, and he's leaning against the ropes, and he's somber, he's sullen, he has failed, and he's very disappointed in himself. And Jeff's kind of waiting for him to turn around, and instead Angle just left without ever looking at Hardy. So, Borash brought out the final 5. James Storm is in first place, and he's out of matches. Next week, it's Bully Ray versus Rob Van Dam, and Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. And 4 of these 5 men will make it into the semifinals. So, And then he had Pyro for this announcement. And we had the main event, which started off as an exact replay of the opening segment. Aries came out. Sting and Hogan came out. Finally, the Aces and Eights showed up. Hogan said, if you want to have a big gang fight, we can do that, but our finest man is in the ring right now, in reference to Austin Aries, who is, in fact, their world champion. That was a great moment. The champion is actually heel as the man and the star, and the biggest star and the most dangerous man in the company. A unique and novel concept. So the Aces and Eights picked out one of their bigger men to hit the ring in a short little brawl. As soon as Aries got the advantage, a gang fight broke out. And then the finish was really weird. A man with no mask got in the ring. Then he put a mask on or pulled his shirt over his face or something. He hit Aries with a slapjack, and they all ran away.
Yeah.
That was the end.
I want to know where Aces and Eights is going, because it's really missing something right now with me. I presume that the fact that they had a giant battle royal at the end was the reason that they put this on last, as opposed to the awesome Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy match and the announcement of who the final 5 were in the Bound for Glory tournament. Because, of course, Bound for Glory is the biggest show of the year, and the final guys are going to be wrestling each other at the next pay-per-view, which is next week. And so to me, that seems like it should be like the focal point of the show and the promotion over the next month and a half. But instead, that went on second to last so they could do this whole Aces and Eights thing. And I don't know. I mean,
no, you're right.
The fans, when the whole Aces and Eights, when the guys came out, it was like the fans just kind of sat there, like, okay, now what? And I don't know. I'm not feeling the Aces and Eights angle like at all. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I guess we're not supposed to know what's going on, but I mean, I don't understand why I'm supposed to care about this, really. You know, I know they're attacking baby faces, but to me, like, as a viewer and as a fan, I'm significantly more interested in the Bound for Glory tournament than these masked motorcycle riding dingbats that are doing whatever they're doing every week. It's not resonating with me one bit. And they closed the show with it, and it kind of, to me, took the show down a notch because they couldn't follow everything they did with Hardy and Angle and the announcement for the finalists.
Yeah. No, it has been the same ending to every show and most of the pay-per-views for 2 or 3 months now. There was a little bit of a story there where they teased that James Storm was involved, but now we know he's not, and they've dropped that entirely, and it's nothing happens in this.
Yeah,
the guys go over the mats, they have a fight, then they leave, and they do it all again the next week.
That is kind of the key. Nothing is happening. I mean, they attack baby faces here and there. I mean, I just, this doesn't do it for me. I mean, maybe next week there'll be like the big reveal that Bobby Roode is behind Aces and Eights, and he attacks Austin Aries, and they do an impromptu signing for a match at the pay-per-view or something like that, which seems way too rushed. But I don't know where Bobby Roode has been. I half expected him to be revealed as a leader at the end of the show, and he'd come out at the end and attack Austin Aries again. At least you'd have a week to set up the match. But instead, it's just like a bunch of guys, nobody knows, comes out, we have a big brawl, and they disappear. You know, where's security? Where are these guys at? You know, what? I'm not feeling it, but we'll see. They've devoted a lot of time to it, so I presume they have a plan, and hopefully it's better than the Claire Lynch plan.
So that was Impact, everybody.
That was Impact. I still don't know what's up with Devon. I presume he's gone. I have not got that confirmed, but he seemed to indicate he was gone, and I kind of half expected it to be a swerve and he would be on the show today, but he was not on the show, so it looks like his contract was coming due, and nobody thought it would be a good idea to take the television title off of him, and now he is left without losing the belt. So that's not good, but I guess we'll see what happens. So